I'm 28 years old, working really hard as a marketing executive, and dealing with a chronic illness that makes every day tough. But the hardest part of my life isn't that, it's my family. I have a younger sister, Clara, who's 25, and she's the favorite. My parents, John and Linda, absolutely adore her. As for me, I'm lucky if they even notice I'm there. Just last week, I finally got the promotion I've been working so hard for. I was excited, so I called home to share the news. Mom, guess what? I got the promotion. Oh, that's nice, dear, she replied. Did you hear Clara's boyfriend took her to that new fancy restaurant downtown? And just like that, my big moment was ignored. It's always like this. Then, the big news came. At a family dinner, Clara came in, waving her hand around. I'm engaged, Rick proposed. Everyone was cheering, Mom was crying, and Dad opened a bottle of champagne. Meanwhile, I was trying to hide my discomfort as pain from my illness flared up, not that anyone noticed. We need to start planning right away, Mom said excitedly. Miriam, clear your schedule, we'll need all the help we can get. I wanted to remind them about my health, but why bother? They'd just say I was being dramatic. The next few weeks were a blur of wedding catalogs, visiting venues, and endless talks about flowers and dresses. No one really asked my opinion, and when they did, it was quickly shut down. No, Miriam, we can't have lilies, Clara's allergic, remember? Of course, I remembered. I was the one who had rushed her to the hospital twice, because of it. But if I suggested something that didn't fit Clara's perfect wedding plans, it was immediately dismissed. One day, during one of those exhausting planning meetings, I decided to escape to my favorite coffee shop. That's where I met Ben. He noticed me struggling as I reached for my coffee. Are you okay? He asked, genuinely concerned. For once, someone was actually paying attention to me. We started talking, and I found out he was a doctor. When I mentioned my illness, he didn't brush it off or change the subject, he listened. We ended up chatting for hours. Ben became my safe space in the middle of all the wedding chaos. He understood my health issues, respected my job, and actually cared about my thoughts. It was a breath of fresh air. Then came the surprise. Clara approached me one day, beaming with excitement. Miriam, I want you to be my maid of honor. I was shocked. We hardly talked outside of family events, and now she wanted me to play such a big role in her wedding. Are you sure? We're not really close, Clara. Don't be silly, she said. You're my sister, it's tradition. And there it was, not because she valued our relationship, but because it was what people expected. I wanted to say no to Clara's offer to be her maid of honor, to protect myself from all the stress I knew it would bring, but the look on my parents' faces told me that saying no wasn't an option. So, here I am, about to take on the role of maid of honor for a sister who hardly knows me, in a wedding planned by parents who barely notice me. All this, while trying to keep up with my demanding job and manage my chronic illness. But at least I have Ben. Maybe things are finally looking up. Little did I know, the worst was still ahead. The big day arrived. I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, but I got out of bed anyway. I wasn't going to give anyone another reason to call me dramatic. I forced a smile as I helped Clara into her wedding dress. You look beautiful, I said, and I meant it. No matter what, she was still my sister. Thanks, she replied, barely looking at me. Just don't mess up your makeup crying during the ceremony. I want the photos to be perfect. The ceremony went by in a blur of white lace and teary vows. I stood there, holding my bouquet, feeling worse by the minute, but I kept it together. I had to. At the reception, I found Ben sitting at our table. You okay? He asked, holding my hand. You look pale. I'm fine, I lied. Just need to get through this. Suddenly, my mom appeared and grabbed my arm. Miriam, it's time for your speech. Don't embarrass your sister. I stood up, feeling a little unsteady as I made my way to the microphone. The room was spinning. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. The last thing I remember was the floor rushing up toward me. I woke up to see Ben's worried face hovering above me. Miriam, can you hear me? He asked. What happened? I mumbled. You collapsed, Ben said. We need to get you to a hospital. That's when I heard my mother's sharp voice. Oh, for heaven's sake, Miriam, get up, you're making a scene. I tried to sit up, but the pain was too much. Mom, I really don't feel good. It's probably just nerves, my dad chimed in. Walk it off. Ben stood up, looking serious. She needs medical attention right now. Clara rushed over, her wedding dress rustling. Miriam, what are you doing? This is my wedding day. I'm sorry, I gasped. I didn't mean to. You never mean to, Clara snapped, but somehow, you always manage to steal the spotlight. Can't you let me have one day? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think I planned this? My mom stepped in. Miriam, that's enough. We're not leaving your sister's wedding. Stop being so dramatic and get back to your seat. Ben's voice cut through the noise. If you won't take her seriously, I'll be fine, Dad said. Take her if you have to, but don't expect us to leave the reception. As Ben helped me up, I looked at my family. They were already turning away, putting on fake smiles for the guests. Clara was back on the dance floor, laughing like nothing had happened. The drive to the hospital was a painful blur, both physically and emotionally. How could they just leave me like that? In the emergency room, doctors hurried to hook me up to machines, while Ben stayed by my side, holding my hand through it all. Finally, a doctor came over with my test results. Miss Thompson, you're having a serious flare-up of your condition. It's a good thing you came in when you did. This could have been very dangerous if left untreated. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, good thing. As the nurses got me settled into a room for overnight observation, I couldn't stop thinking about my family, still at the wedding, dancing and celebrating while I was lying in a hospital bed. Ben squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry, Miriam, you deserve better than that. For the first time that day, I allowed myself to cry. Why don't they care, Ben? Am I really that unimportant to them? He didn't have an answer, and neither did I, but as I lay there, hooked up to IVs and monitors, one thing became clear: I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't keep putting myself last for people who wouldn't even leave a party to take me to the hospital. As I drifted off to sleep, I made a promise to myself. Things were going to change. I just had to figure out how. A week in the hospital felt like forever. The only good thing was Ben, who visited every day, bringing me books and keeping me company. Not once did my family show up or even call. When I finally got discharged, I went home, completely drained, both physically and emotionally. When I opened the door, Mom, Dad, and Clara were sitting in the living room, acting like it was just another day. Oh, you're back, Mom said, barely looking up from her magazine. There's laundry that needs doing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you serious right now? I just got out of the hospital. Dad cleared his throat. About that, Miriam, we think you owe your sister an apology for ruining her wedding. Clara nodded, her face full of fake hurt. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Everyone was talking about it. Something inside me snapped. Apologize? I nearly died, and you want me to apologize? Don't be so dramatic, Mom sighed. It's always something with you, isn't it? That was it, the final straw. I'm done, I said, my voice shaking. I'm done with all this toxicity. I'm out of here. I stormed to my room, threw some clothes into a bag, and walked out. They didn't even try to stop me. Ben was waiting outside in his car. One look at my face, and he knew. You're staying with me, he said. It wasn't a question. The next few weeks passed in a blur of doctor's appointments and work. I threw myself into my job, determined to prove that I could succeed without my family's so-called support. One day, I was going through some old papers when I found documents about a trust fund in my name. Curious, I called the bank. I'm sorry, Miss Thompson, but that account has been almost drained, the banker said. My head was spinning. That's impossible. I've never touched it. After some digging, I discovered the ugly truth. My parents had been taking money from my trust fund for years, using it to pay for Clara's expensive lifestyle. I felt sick. Not only had they neglected me emotionally, but they had also been stealing from me. I knew I needed help, so I called a lawyer named Tom. After reviewing the documents, Tom looked serious. This is a big deal, Miriam. Your parents could face criminal charges for this. Part of me wanted to let it go, to just walk away, but a stronger part of me was done being pushed around. What do we do? I asked. Tom leaned forward. We investigate, we gather evidence, and then we make them face the consequences of what they've done. As I nodded, I felt a mix of sadness and determination. This wasn't how I imagined my life would turn out, but I knew it had to be done. For once, I was standing up for myself. That night, as Ben and I sat on his couch, I couldn't help but reflect on everything. You okay? Ben asked, wrapping his arm around me. I don't know, I admitted. I'm angry and hurt, but I also feel free. Is that strange? He shook his head. Not at all. You're finally putting yourself first, And that's a good thing. I leaned into him, realizing he was right. For the first time in my life, I was prioritizing my own well-being. It felt scary, but right. Whatever happens next, I said, I'm ready. Little did I know, the storm that was about to hit my family would change everything, but this time, I wouldn't be the one suffering. This time, I would be the one in control. As the weeks turned into months, my life changed dramatically. I landed the biggest client of my career, putting me on the fast track for an executive position. The day I signed the contract, I thought about how my family would have brushed this off, but Ben, he threw me a surprise party. I'm so proud of you, he said, handing me a glass of champagne. You deserve this. Then, on a quiet Sunday morning, Ben got down on one knee. Miriam, will you marry me? With tears in my eyes, I said yes. We decided to have a small, intimate wedding, everything my sister's wedding wasn't. Meanwhile, Tom had been investigating my family's finances. One day, he called me into his office, looking grim. Miriam, it's worse than we thought. Your father has been embezzling money from his company to fund Clara's lifestyle. I felt sick to my stomach. What do we do? Tom laid out the options, and after a sleepless night, I made my decision. I anonymously tipped off my dad's company about the embezzlement. The fallout was quick and harsh. Dad was fired and faced criminal charges. Our family name, once respected, was now ruined in our community. Then I got a call from Mom. Miriam, please, we need your help. Your father, the company is pressing charges. I took a deep breath. I'm sorry, Mom, I can't help you. But we're family, she cried. Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated me, I replied, and hung up. Next was Clara. Her perfect life had fallen apart. Rick had left her, and without Dad's stolen money, she couldn't keep up her fancy lifestyle. Miriam, I'm so sorry, she sobbed over the phone. I didn't know about the money. Please, can we start over? Part of me wanted to forgive her, to be the bigger person, but then I remembered all the years of neglect, of always being second. I'm sorry, Clara, I can't do this anymore. I wish you the best, but I need to focus on my own life now. When I hung up, I felt lighter, like a burden had been lifted. For the first time, I had chosen myself. The day of my wedding finally arrived. It was nothing like Clara's big, over-the-top event, just me, Ben, and our closest friends in a beautiful garden. As I walked down the aisle, all I saw in Ben's eyes was love, no judgment, no comparison, just pure acceptance. I do, I said, my voice strong and sure. At the reception, I looked around at the small gathering. These were people who truly cared about me, who had stood by me through everything. My colleague Sarah raised a toast. To Miriam and Ben, two of the kindest, strongest people I know, may your life together be filled with love and respect. As Ben and I swayed during our first dance, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. What are you thinking about? Ben asked softly. I'm thinking about how far I've come, I replied, and how excited I am for our future. He smiled and pulled me closer. Me too. I love you, Miriam. I love you too, I said, and I meant it, not just the words, but the promise of a life where I was valued, respected, and loved unconditionally. As the night came to an end, I felt a deep sense of peace. My family's actions had consequences, but I no longer felt responsible for fixing their mistakes. I had my own life to live, my own family to build, with Ben by my side. Looking at my new husband, I smiled. The road ahead might not be perfect, but I knew one thing for sure, I would face it on my own terms, surrounded by people who truly loved me, and that, I realized, was the sweetest justice of all.
I never thought I'd be the type of person to snoop through my husband's things, but there I was. Hands trembling as I scrolled through his credit card statements at 2 a.m. The soft glow of my laptop screen illuminated our home office, and with each mysterious charge I found, my stomach twisted tighter. My name is Margot, and until tonight, I thought I had the kind of marriage other people envied. 15 years together, a beautiful 7-year-old son, and what I believed was open communication about everything, especially money. The numbers on the screen told a different story. Multiple charges at high-end restaurants where Ethan claimed he was sourcing ingredients for our family restaurant. Hotel charges in neighboring cities when he said he was at supplier meetings. The most recent one was from yesterday, for $100 at some place called La Rose that I'd never heard of. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly closed the laptop. Ethan appeared in the doorway, his chef's coat still on from closing the restaurant. "You're still up?" he asked, loosening his collar. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just finishing some work emails." "How was service tonight?" "Slow." He ran a hand through his dark hair. "Mom thinks we should change the menu again, make it more modern. But you know how I feel about messing with my dad's recipes." The mention of Dorothy, my mother-in-law, made me wince. She'd been pushing for changes at the restaurant for months, but Ethan wouldn't hear it. Now I wondered if his resistance to change was the least of our problems. "Actually," I said, "I wanted to talk about the business accounts. There are some charges I don't understand." His expression shifted, so subtle I almost missed it. A tightening around the eyes, a slight clench of his jaw. "What charges?" "La Rose?" "The Marriott in Springfield last week." I kept my voice steady, giving him room to explain. "Oh, those." He waved dismissively. "Just some meetings with potential investors. I was going to tell you once things were more concrete." "Investors?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood. "Since when are we looking for investors?" "Margot, please. It's late and I'm tired. Can we not do this now?" "When should we do it, Ethan?" "When the restaurant's completely underwater. When we've burned through Luke's college fund." He stepped back like I'd slapped him. "Is that what you think of me? That I'd gamble with our son's future?" I don't know what to think anymore. I pulled up the statements on my phone. These charges don't look like business meetings. They look like... Like what? His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. "Go ahead, say it." Before I could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. "Mommy? Daddy?" Luke stood there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching his stuffed triceratops. My heart sank. How much had he heard? "Hey, buddy," Ethan said, his tone instantly softening. "Just grown-up talk. Let's get you back to bed." As Ethan led Luke away, I sat heavily in my chair, mind racing. The charges, the lies, his defensive reaction, it all pointed to something I didn't want to face. But there was more going on here than just secret meetings or hidden financial troubles. I could feel it in my bones. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "You up?" "Just saw Ethan's car at that new wine bar downtown. Thought he was working late." I stared at the message, my hands going cold. He'd just walked in wearing his chef's coat, claiming he'd been at the restaurant. Another lie. The question wasn't whether my husband was hiding something anymore. The question was, how far was I willing to go to uncover the truth? And more importantly, was I ready to face what I might find? Sunday dinners at Dorothy's house used to be a tradition I looked forward to. Now, watching my mother-in-law fuss over Ethan while pointedly ignoring my attempts to join their conversation. I felt like an outsider in what was supposed to be my family. "The carbonara is different tonight," Dorothy said, her fork hovering over her plate. "Ethan, darling, did you change your father's recipe?" I caught the slight tremor in Ethan's hand as he reached for his wine glass. "Just trying something new, Mom." "New isn't always better," she replied, shooting me a look that made her meaning clear. I'd been pushing for menu updates at the restaurant for months. Luke, sitting between us, pushed his pasta around his plate. "I like it, Daddy." "Thank you, buddy." Ethan's smile didn't reach his eyes. At least someone appreciates innovation. "Speaking of innovation," I said, seizing the moment, "I've been looking at the restaurant's numbers. If we updated the menu and marketing strategy..." "Here we go again," Dorothy interrupted. "Always with the numbers and strategies. The restaurant was doing fine before you started meddling, Margot." "Mom," Ethan warned, but his defense felt hollow. I set down my fork, the metal clinking against fine china. "The restaurant is hemorrhaging money, Dorothy. Last month's profits barely covered the utilities." "And whose fault is that?" Dorothy's voice dripped with accusation. "Ever since you pushed Ethan to hire that new sous chef." "I think it's time for dessert," Ethan cut in, standing abruptly. "Luke, want to help me serve the tiramisu?" After they left, Dorothy leaned forward. "My son had everything under control until you started filling his head with modern nonsense. The restaurant is his legacy, his father's legacy." "A legacy of debt won't help anyone," I replied, keeping my voice low. "Have you seen the credit card statements?" The mysterious charges? Something flickered across Dorothy's face. Concern? Recognition? Before her mask of disapproval returned. Ethan knows what he's doing. You need to trust him instead of trying to control everything. Before I could respond, Luke came bouncing back with a dessert plate. Nana, look what Daddy made. The conversation shifted, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Dorothy knew more than she was letting on. Throughout dessert, I watched her and Ethan exchange meaningful glances, speaking in that shorthand that mothers and sons develop over years. Later, as we were leaving, Dorothy pulled Ethan aside while I helped Luke with his coat. Their whispered conversation carried just enough for me to catch fragments. Careful with the, she's getting suspicious. Your father would understand. My phone buzzed. Another text from Claire. That wine bar? Just found out it's owned by someone named Isabella Romano. Ring any bells? The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Isabella Romano, Ethan's high school sweetheart, the one who got away. The one who'd moved back to town 6 months ago. Ready to go? Ethan appeared beside me, keys jingling in his hand. Actually, I said, I need to stop by the office. Year-end reports due tomorrow. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but no worse than the ones he'd been feeding me. On a Sunday night? Dorothy's disapproval radiated across the foyer. Really, Margot, family should come first. I met her gaze steadily. Sometimes protecting your family means working when you'd rather not. The drive home was silent except for Luke's soft snoring in the back seat. Ethan stared straight ahead, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I watched his profile in the passing streetlights, wondering when my husband had become a stranger. As we pulled into our driveway, he finally spoke. I need to go back to the restaurant. Emergency with the walk-in cooler. I nodded, already pulling up the wine bar's location on my phone. Don't stay out too late. He hesitated, hand on the door handle. For a moment, I thought he might confess everything. Instead, he just said, don't wait up. I watched his taillights disappear around the corner, my resolve hardening. Tomorrow, I'd visit this wine bar myself. It was time to find out exactly what kind of legacy my husband was really protecting. La Rose turned out to be exactly what I'd feared, an intimate wine bar with mood lighting and cozy corners perfect for secret meetings. I sat at the bar, nursing a glass of Chianti, when I spotted them through the window, Ethan and Isabella. Walking arm in arm down the street like they were starring in their own romantic comedy. Claire squeezed my arm. You don't have to watch this. Yes, I do. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with. They didn't come inside. Instead, they stopped at the corner, heads close together in conversation. Isabella reached up to straighten Ethan's collar, a gesture so intimate it made my stomach turn. Then she handed him what looked like a thick envelope. That's not a love letter, Claire murmured. Too big. I was already pulling up our joint banking app. The notification hit me like a slap, a transfer of $50,000 from our savings account, processed just hours ago. My hands shook as I dialed Ethan's number. He answered on the third ring, street noise in the background. Hey, I'm at the restaurant. Stop lying. The words came out sharp enough to make nearby patrons turn. I can see you right now with Isabella. What's in the envelope, Ethan? Silence stretched between us. Then, where are you? Where's our savings? I countered. The $50,000 you transferred today? More silence. Then I can explain everything. Meet me at the restaurant. No more private meetings. You want to explain? Come home. Now. 20 minutes later, we sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd planned our wedding, celebrated Luke's first words, mapped out our dreams. Now it felt like an interrogation room. Isabella's helping me save the restaurant, Ethan said, the envelope sitting between us like a bomb. She's buying in as a partner. A partner? The word tasted like acid. When were you planning to discuss this with your actual partner? Your wife. You wouldn't understand. You've been trying to change everything about the place. Because it's failing. I grabbed the stack of bills I'd collected. We're drowning in debt, Ethan. And instead of facing it together, you're making secret deals with your high school girlfriend. She understands the restaurant business. She respects tradition. She respects tradition? I laughed, the sound brittle. Is that what you tell yourself when you're having dinner with her instead of your family? When you're lying to your wife and son about where you are? His face darkened. Don't bring Luke into this. Luke's already in this. Every penny you're gambling on your precious traditions is coming out of his future. Ethan stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I'm trying to secure his future. The restaurant is his inheritance. The restaurant is a money pit. I opened the envelope, spreading documents across the table. And this? This isn't a partnership agreement, Ethan. It's a buyout offer. The color drained from his face. What? Isabella's not trying to save your father's legacy. She's trying to buy it out from under you. Turn it into one of her trendy wine bars. I watched the realization hit him. Did you even read what you were getting into? He snatched the papers, scanning them with growing horror. This isn't. She said. She said what you wanted to hear. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. Just like you've been saying what you think I want to hear. How's that working out for everyone? The front door opened, Claire, bringing Luke back from their ice cream run. His happy chatter filled the house, and I watched Ethan quickly gather the papers, stuffing them out of sight. More secrets. I asked quietly. More lies. He met my eyes for the first time all evening. I'll fix this. No, I said, hearing Luke's footsteps on the stairs. I'll fix this. Starting tomorrow, I'm taking control of all our accounts. If you want to throw away your father's legacy, you'll have to do it without destroying our son's future. You can't. Watch me. I turned toward the stairs, plastering on a smile as Luke appeared. Hey, sweetie. How was ice cream with Aunt Claire? As Luke launched into an excited description of his Sunday, I caught Ethan's reflection in the window, lost, angry, and for the first time, afraid. Good. He should be afraid. Because this wasn't just about saving our money anymore. This was about survival. The bank statement stared back at me from my laptop screen, each transaction like a knife twist. College fund? Gone. Emergency savings? Drained. Joint accounts? Nearly empty. My hands shook as I clicked through the history, systematic withdrawals going back months, all traced to accounts I'd never seen before. Claire set a coffee mug in front of me. How bad is it? He's taken everything. My voice sounded distant, hollow. Almost $200,000, siphoned off bit by bit. For the restaurant? I laughed, a harsh sound that surprised us both. No, these transfers. They're going to personal accounts. Investment schemes. And get this, a down payment on a property in Isabella's name. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Through the window, I saw Dorothy's Mercedes in my driveway. Perfect timing. I've got this, I told Claire, squaring my shoulders. Could you check on Luke upstairs? Dorothy burst in before I could reach the door, brandishing her phone. What have you done? Ethan's beside himself. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. I pulled up the bank statements. Did you know about this, Dorothy? All these withdrawals. She barely glanced at the screen. A man has the right to protect his business. His business? I turned the laptop toward her. Show me which of these transactions was for the restaurant. The crypto investments? The property in Isabella's name? Dorothy's face flickered, just for a moment, but I caught it. She knew. Ethan's under tremendous pressure, she said, smoothing her designer skirt. If you'd been more supportive? More supportive? The words came out like ice. I've supported him through failed menu changes, through hiring his deadbeat friends, through every misguided decision. But this, I gestured at the screen. This is theft. Don't be dramatic. Luke's college fund, Dorothy. Your son stole your grandson's future. That landed. She sank into a chair, her carefully maintained facade cracking. He promised he would replace it. Said he had a sure thing. Like the sure thing with Isabella? I pulled up the property records I'd found. A waterfront restaurant space, purchased last week. Guess who's listed as co-owner? Dorothy's hands trembled as she reached for the laptop. No, he wouldn't. Already did. With our money meant for Luke's education, our retirement, our life together. I leaned forward. Still want to tell me how unsupportive I am? Footsteps on the stairs made us both turn. Luke appeared, clutching his backpack. Nah. Are you coming to my science fair? Dorothy's face crumpled. Not today, sweetheart. I need to. I need to talk to your father. After she left, I found myself staring at Luke's science fair project, a simple demonstration of cause and effect. If only adult life were that straightforward. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. We need to talk. Meet me at the restaurant. Not a chance, I typed back. You want to talk? Bring the account statements, investment records, and property documents. All of them. We'll talk here with our lawyers present. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, you're really going to do this? Destroy everything? I looked at Luke, now sitting at the dining table with Claire, working on his presentation. Everything that mattered was right here, and Ethan had risked it all for what? His ego? A second chance with an old flame? You destroyed it, I replied. I'm just documenting the wreckage. Another text came through, this time from Dorothy. He's not who I raised him to be. I'm so sorry, Margot. I closed my laptop, suddenly exhausted. The apology meant something, but it wouldn't replace Luke's college fund or repair our shattered trust. Mom? Luke called from the table. Can you help me practice my presentation? Of course, sweetie. I moved to join him, my resolve hardening with each step. Tomorrow, I'd call my lawyer. I'd freeze accounts, document everything, build a case. But right now, my son needed me to help him understand cause and effect, action and consequence. It was a lesson his father was about to learn the hard way. Claire's office felt like a sanctuary compared to the chaos my life had become. She pushed a steaming cup of tea across her desk along with a stack of papers that would change everything. The forensic accountant found more, she said, tapping the documents. A lot more. I flipped through the pages, each new discovery hitting harder than the last. Shell companies? Offshore accounts. My hands started shaking. How long has he been planning this? Based on the transactions? At least a year. Claire leaned forward. Margot, this isn't just about Isabella or the restaurant anymore. This is systematic fraud. My phone buzzed. Another message from Ethan. Luke keeps asking when I'm coming home. Can we talk? Just us. I switched off the phone. He's using our son now, trying to guilt me into backing down. Because he knows you're close to uncovering everything. Claire pulled out another document. Look at this, the waterfront property. It's just the beginning. There are permits filed for 3 more locations, all under Isabella's company name. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. He's not just leaving me, he's building an empire with her. Using our money, our future. A knock at Claire's door made us both jump. Through the glass, I saw Dorothy, looking smaller somehow, clutching her designer purse like a shield. I'll give you 2 a minute, Claire said, squeezing my shoulder as she left. Dorothy sat heavily in the vacant chair. I found these in Ethan's old room. She pulled out a stack of letters, yellowed with age. Love letters. From Isabella. He kept them all these years. Why are you showing me this? Because I enabled him. Her voice cracked. All those years, defending him, blaming you. I wanted so badly to believe he was still my perfect boy. She pushed the letters toward me. But he's been planning this since she came back. The restaurant was never failing. He was bleeding it dry on purpose. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Every argument about tradition, every resistance to change, it had all been a smokescreen. There's more, Dorothy continued. The night Frank, Ethan's father, died. He changed his will. Left controlling interest in the restaurant to Luke, not Ethan. He must have suspected something. And Ethan never knew? The lawyers were supposed to reveal it on Luke's 18th birthday. Dorothy's hands trembled. I should have told you sooner. Maybe then. My phone lit up again, Ethan, but this time with a photo. Luke at his science fair, looking lost without either parent there. The message below, he needs his family together. Don't make him pay for our mistakes. Something snapped inside me. Our mistakes. I stood up, gathering the forensic reports. No, this ends now. What are you going to do? I met her eyes steadily. I'm going to take everything, the restaurant, the properties, every penny he stole. Not for revenge, but because that money belongs to Luke. His father might have forgotten that, but I haven't. He'll fight you. Let him. I pulled up my email, copying my lawyer. I'm done protecting Ethan's ego at Luke's expense. If he wants a war, I'll give him one. Dorothy stood, straightening her shoulders. The family lawyers, the ones who know about Frank's will, I'll have them contact you. As she reached the door, she paused. Margot? Frank would have been proud to have you as a daughter-in-law. I'm sorry I wasn't. After she left, Claire returned, eyeing the scattered papers. You okay? No. I started organizing the documents, each page fueling my resolve. But I will be. First, I'm getting a restraining order to freeze all accounts and assets. Then I'm picking up my son from school. He deserves to know his mother chose him over everything else. And Ethan. I looked at the photo he'd sent, seeing it now for what it was. Not a plea for reconciliation, but another manipulation. Ethan chose his path 15 years ago when he kept those letters. He just needed Isabella to come back to finally walk it. I gathered my things, a strange calm settling over me. The time for tears and confusion was over. Now it was time for justice, not just for me, but for Luke and the legacy that should have been his all along. The restaurant was empty when I arrived, but the lights in the office were on. Through the window, I could see Ethan and Isabella huddled over paperwork, their heads close together. Just like old times, apparently. I pushed through the door, the familiar bell chiming overhead. The sound used to mean home. Now it felt like a warning. We're closed, Ethan called without looking up. Not to me. I dropped the stack of legal documents on their table. Not yet, anyway. Isabella straightened, her perfectly manicured hand still resting on Ethan's arm. I'll give you 2 minutes. Stay, I said. Since you're so invested in my family's future, you should hear this too. Ethan finally met my eyes. Margot, whatever you're thinking. I'm thinking about Luke's inheritance. I watched his face pale. The one your father left him. Interesting timing, wasn't it? Changing his will right before he died. Isabella's hand dropped from Ethan's arm. What inheritance? The controlling interest in this restaurant. I smiled, but it felt more like baring teeth. The one you two were planning to sell out from under my son. That's impossible. Ethan stood, papers scattering. Dad left everything to me. He didn't trust you. The words hit him like a physical blow. Maybe he saw something in you that I was too blind to notice. The selfishness. The lies. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I gestured to Isabella. You never got over her. Fine, but stealing from our son? Destroying his future for your second chance at young love? Isabella gathered her things, avoiding eye contact. I should go. Running away again? I asked. That's your specialty, isn't it? 15 years ago, you left him. Now you're helping him leave his family. That's enough. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. You don't get to come in here and what? Tell the truth. I pulled out my phone, showing them the restraining order. All accounts are frozen. The properties, the restaurant, everything. Until we sort out exactly what belongs to Luke. Isabella's face went white. Ethan, you said this was all legitimate. It is. He turned to her, desperate. Baby, I can explain. The pet name hung in the air between us, and suddenly I was 17 again, watching them in the school hallway. History repeating itself, only this time with my son's future as collateral damage. I'll have my lawyer contact you, Isabella said, gathering her things. At the door, she paused. I'm sorry, Margot. I didn't know about Luke's inheritance. After she left, Ethan seemed to deflate. You've ruined everything. No, I said quietly. You did that all on your own. He sank into a chair, running his hands through his hair. What do you want? Money? The restaurant? I want you to look me in the eye and tell Luke why his college fund is gone. Why his father chose his high school girlfriend over his son's future. Don't bring him into this. He's already in this. My voice cracked. He's been in this since the day you started stealing from him. God, Ethan, he worships you. Wants to be just like his daddy. How's that working out for everyone? My phone buzzed. Claire, watching Luke at home. He's asking for both of you. What should I tell him? The message hit me like a punch to the gut. While we were here fighting over money and old flames, our son was waiting for his parents to come home. We're done here, I said, gathering the papers. The lawyers will handle the rest. Margot, wait. Ethan's voice was small. What if? What if I can fix this? Pay everything back. I turned at the door, taking in the restaurant, the faded photos of his father, the worn booths where we'd planned our future. The kitchen where he'd taught Luke to make pasta. All of it tainted now. Some things can't be fixed, Ethan. Some betrayals run too deep. Outside, the night air hit me like a slap. My phone buzzed again. Dorothy this time. Isabella just left town. Cleaned out their joint accounts first. I leaned against my car, laughing until tears came. Of course she ran. She always did. But this time, she took what was left of our family's future with her. The only question now was, how do you rebuild from absolute zero? The knock at my door came at midnight. I knew who it was before I opened it. Ethan had always had terrible timing. You can't just show up here, I said, keeping my voice low. Luke was finally asleep upstairs after crying himself out, asking why Daddy hadn't come to his science fair presentation. I got a job offer. Ethan looked haunted, his usually pristine chef's coat wrinkled and stained. In Seattle. Running a restaurant group. Congratulations. Is that all? He held up an envelope. It's from Isabella's company. They want to make it right. Full restitution, plus interest. Everything I took, paid back. I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet night. Let me guess, you just have to move across the country to get it? I could send money back. For Luke. Make things right. Right. The word tasted like poison. You want to make things right by abandoning your son? Again. I'm trying to fix this. Lower your voice, I hissed. If you wake Luke. Mommy? The small voice from the stairs made us both freeze. Luke stood there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching his science fair ribbon. Daddy? Ethan's face crumpled. Hey, buddy. I'm sorry I missed your presentation. Did you come to see my project? Luke's face lit up with hope so pure it hurt to watch. Actually, Ethan swallowed hard. I came to say, I'm going away for a while. For work. The hope died in Luke's eyes. Like when you went in meetings with Miss Isabella? The innocent question hit like a slap. Ethan staggered back as if physically struck. Luke, it's not. I mean, is it because I didn't win first place? Luke's voice trembled. I'll do better next time, I promise. No, sweetheart, I moved to the stairs, but Luke was already running back up them, his small feet thundering like my heartbeat. Luke, wait. Ethan called, but I blocked his path. You don't get to chase him now. Not when you're running away again. I'm not running. I'm trying to make things right. By taking Isabella's blood money? Trading your son for a fresh start. What choice do I have? His voice cracked. The restaurant's gone. Our savings are gone. At least this way. At least this way you get to start over with a clean conscience? I pulled out my phone, showing him the email I'd received hours earlier. Funny thing, Dorothy already contacted Isabella's company. Told them about Luke's inheritance, about the fraud. Want to guess how fast they withdrew that job offer? The color drained from his face. You didn't. I didn't have to. Your mother did. Turns out she's finally choosing her grandson over her son. A thud from upstairs made us both look up. Luke appeared again, dragging his suitcase, the one we'd used for our last family vacation, before everything fell apart. I want to go with Daddy, he announced, chin trembling but determined. Ethan broke. Luke, you can't. I mean, I'm not. Why not? Luke demanded, tears starting. You don't want me either? The question hung in the air like shattered glass. I watched Ethan's face as the full weight of his choices finally hit him, not in lost money or failed schemes, but in his son's broken trust. I'll always want you, buddy, he whispered. But sometimes daddies make mistakes they can't fix. Like when I broke Mommy's favorite vase? Luke asked. She was mad, but she still loved me. I caught Ethan's eye, saw the moment he realized what he was throwing away, not just his son's love, but his chance to deserve it. This is different, he said finally. Some breaks. They can't be glued back together. Luke dropped his suitcase, the thud echoing like a judge's gavel. Without another word, he ran to me, burying his face in my legs. Go, I told Ethan. But remember this moment. Remember what you chose. He stepped back into the night, leaving behind the envelope of promises he couldn't keep. As I held our sobbing son, I realized some victories feel more like funerals, necessary, but heavy with the weight of what's being buried. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated restaurant kitchen, watching Luke carefully roll pasta dough just like his grandfather had taught him in old home videos. Dorothy stood beside him, gently guiding his small hands. Just like that, she said softly. Frank would be so proud. The restaurant's grand reopening was tomorrow. Not as Ethan's failing tribute to the past, but as Luke's inheritance reimagined. The walls now displayed both old family photos and Luke's artwork. The menu balanced traditional recipes with modern touches. A bridge between generations, just like Frank had wanted. Mom? Luke looked up, flour dusting his cheeks. Can we put Grandpa Frank's carbonara on the kids' menu? Of course, sweetheart. I caught Dorothy's eye, saw the tears she quickly blinked away. It's your restaurant, after all. The bell chimed up front. Claire's voice carried from the dining room. Special delivery. Luke ran out, leaving his pasta half-rolled. Through the kitchen window, I watched him open the envelope Claire brought, his first official profit statement from the restaurant's trust. Wow, he exclaimed. That's a lot of zeros. All going straight to your college fund, I reminded him, following him out. Just like Grandpa Frank wanted. Speaking of Frank's wishes, Dorothy pulled out an envelope of her own. The lawyers found this in his old files. It's for you, Margot. The letter was dated just days before Frank's death. Dear Margot, I'm leaving the restaurant to Luke because he has your heart and my passion for food. But more importantly, because he has you to guide him. You've always seen what this place could be, not just what it was. Take care of my grandson's inheritance and don't let anyone, not even my son, stand in the way of progress. With love and trust, Frank. He knew, I whispered. About Ethan, about everything. Dorothy squeezed my hand. Frank always said you were the daughter he'd wished for. Now I understand why. The kitchen door chimed again. This time, a familiar figure stood awkwardly in the entrance. Ethan, looking older somehow, holding a small package. Luke went still. Daddy? Hey, buddy. Ethan's voice cracked. I found these in Seattle. Grandpa's original recipe cards. I stepped forward, but Dorothy beat me to it. Perhaps those belong to the restaurant's owner now. Ethan nodded, holding the package out to Luke. I thought maybe they could help you learn the family recipes. If you want. Luke took the cards carefully, then surprised us all by hugging his father. Want to see my pasta? Nana's teaching me, from the videos. As they disappeared into the kitchen, Claire sidled up to me. You okay? I watched through the window as Luke showed Ethan his rolling technique, Dorothy hovering nearby. The scene looked almost normal, except for the invisible walls between us all, walls built of broken trust and hard-learned lessons. You know, I said, I spent so long wanting revenge. Wanting to make Ethan hurt like we hurt. I touched Frank's letter in my pocket. But this is better. Building something new from the ashes of what he destroyed. Speaking of building, Claire grinned, pulling up a news article on her phone. Guess whose Seattle restaurant venture just went bankrupt? I handed the phone back without reading further. That's not our story anymore. The kitchen filled with laughter, Luke attempting to teach Ethan the proper way to knead dough. The sound was complicated, like family itself. Not quite healing, but not quite broken either. Dorothy joined us, watching her son and grandson. Sometimes the best revenge is simply moving forward. No, I corrected her gently. Sometimes the best revenge is remembering what actually matters. Through the window, Luke caught my eye and beamed, flower-covered and happy. Tomorrow, we'd open the doors to a new chapter. Not the ending I'd once imagined, but maybe a better one, built on truth, trust, and a 7-year-old's unwavering belief in second chances. Even if some of those chances had to be earned one pasta roll at a time.
I never thought a simple phone notification would shatter my world. But there it was, lighting up my husband Mark's screen while he showered, a message preview that made my stomach drop. I miss our talks. Lunch again tomorrow. My name is Grace, and until that moment, I was living what I thought was a perfectly normal life as a stay-at-home mom to our 6-year-old daughter, Lily. The kind of life where your biggest daily crisis is getting paint stains out of your kid's favorite dress or making sure dinner doesn't burn while helping with homework. I stood there in our bedroom, Mark's phone in my hand, my thumb hovering over the screen. The rational part of me said to put it down. The other part, the part that had noticed Mark working later and later, coming home with a distant look in his eyes, that part won out. "Mom, where are my purple socks?" Lily's voice carried up from downstairs, making me jump. "Check the laundry basket, sweetie," I called back, my voice surprisingly steady despite my trembling hands. The shower was still running. I had time. 3 swipes later, I was staring at weeks of messages between Mark and someone named Andrea from sales. They started innocently enough, work discussions, meeting confirmations. But as I scrolled up, the tone shifted. Inside jokes, personal details, plans for private lunches. "Found them!" Lily shouted triumphantly. The shower stopped. I quickly placed Mark's phone back exactly where I'd found it and busied myself with making the bed, my mind racing. The messages weren't explicitly romantic, but there was an intimacy there that made my chest ache. "Hey, have you seen my blue tie?" Mark emerged from the bathroom, towel around his waist, water droplets still clinging to his shoulders. He looked exactly the same as he had yesterday, but somehow everything was different. "The one with stripes?" I kept my voice casual, smoothing the comforter with shaking hands. "It's in the dry cleaning pile." He frowned. "I needed that one for the meeting with Richard today." There was an edge to his voice that I'd been hearing more often lately. "You know how particular he is about appearances." "I can grab it from the cleaners this morning," I offered, but he was already shaking his head. "Don't bother. I'll figure something out." He turned to the closet, effectively dismissing me. I watched him get ready, going through his usual morning routine. Every movement seemed loaded with new meaning. Was he choosing that shirt because Andrea liked it? Was he checking his phone so much because of her? "Daddy, can you drive me to school today?" Lily appeared in the doorway, purple socks proudly displayed, her backpack nearly as big as she was. "Not today, princess. I've got an early meeting." Mark barely looked up from his phone as he knotted a different tie around his neck. Lily's face fell and something inside me snapped. This wasn't just about me anymore. Whatever was happening with Mark was affecting our daughter too. "I'll take you, baby," I said, reaching for her hand. "We can listen to your favorite songs on the way." As we headed downstairs, Mark called after us. "Don't forget I have that dinner thing tonight. Don't wait up." "Dinner thing," I repeated under my breath, the words tasting bitter. How many of those dinner things had actually been lunches with Andrea? I helped Lily into her car seat, my mind already spinning with possibilities. I could confront Mark directly. I could try to catch them together. I could pretend I knew nothing and gather more evidence. But as I started the car and caught sight of my daughter's face in the rearview mirror, so innocent, so trusting, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever I decided to do next would change everything. And I needed to make sure those changes would be for the better. For both of us. The call from Lily's school came just as I was setting up my easel in the spare room. My daughter had pushed another kid during recess, completely out of character for my usually sweet little girl. As I drove to pick her up, my mind kept drifting to the half-finished canvas I'd left behind. Painting had become my escape lately, the only place where the mess in my head made sense. "She's normally such a good student," Miss Thompson said, while Lily sat slumped in a chair beside her desk. "But lately she's been distracted, acting out." I knelt in front of Lily, noting the dark smudges under her eyes. "What happened, baby?" "Tommy said I was lying." Lily's bottom lip trembled. "He said daddies don't have special friends at work." The air left my lungs. I forced myself to keep my expression neutral, even as my heart hammered against my ribs. What made you tell Tommy about Daddy's friend? I heard you talking to Aunt Sarah on the phone. Lily picked at a loose thread on her skirt. You said Daddy has a special friend named Andrea. Miss Thompson shifted uncomfortably in her chair. I felt my cheeks burn, knowing this would be through the parent grapevine by dinner. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Coffee? You look like you could use a friend right now. 20 minutes later, we sat in her studio, surrounded by her vibrant abstract paintings. Sarah pushed a steaming mug into my hands. Spill. Lily's acting out at school because of Mark's. Whatever it is with Andrea. I took a shaky sip. I should have been more careful talking about it. No, Mark should have been more careful sneaking around. Sarah grabbed one of her canvases, turning it to face me. Remember this one? From your first art class? I smiled despite myself. Painting was terrible, all muddy colors and uncertain brushstrokes. You were such a patient teacher. And you were a natural once you stopped doubting yourself. She paused, studying me. The local gallery is accepting submissions for their summer showcase. You should enter. I nearly choked on my coffee. I haven't shown my work since before Lily was born. Exactly. Time to remind everyone, including Mark, that you're more than just someone's wife and mother. That evening, I was working on a new painting when Mark came home early for once. He stopped in the doorway of my makeshift studio, frowning at the drop cloths and art supplies. What's all this? His tone was light, but I caught the tension in his jaw. Just getting back into painting. I kept working, adding touches of deep blue to the canvas. The school called today. Lily got in trouble. What? Why didn't you tell me immediately? He pulled out his phone, probably checking for missed messages. You were in meetings. I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. With Andrea, I assume? The silence that followed was deafening. When I finally looked up, Mark's face had gone carefully blank. We need to focus on Lily right now. This hobby can wait. It's not a hobby. I set down my brush. And Lily's acting out because she knows something's wrong at home. She can feel it. Nothing's wrong except you turning our spare room into an art gallery instead of dealing with our daughter. He turned to leave, then paused. Clean this up before someone tracks paint through the house. After he left, I stared at my painting, a stormy seascape with a single lighthouse standing defiant against the waves. Sarah was right. It was time to stop hiding my light. I pulled out my phone and photographed my 3 best pieces. The gallery submission deadline was tomorrow. My hands shook as I filled out the online form, but I didn't hesitate when I reached the artist's statement section. Art is truth, I wrote. And sometimes the truth needs to be seen to be believed. I hit submit before I could change my mind. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing. I was done being invisible. The gallery's acceptance email arrived the same morning I found the receipt. Mark had forgotten to clear his browser history. Rookie mistake. 2 nights at the Mountain View Hotel charged to our joint account. The dates matched his business conference from last month. I was still staring at the screen when Mark stumbled into the kitchen, looking hungover despite claiming he'd worked late. Coffee ready? Interesting place, the Mountain View, I said, keeping my voice steady. Their website shows beautiful conference rooms. He froze halfway to the coffee maker. What? I particularly like their couple's spa packages. Though I guess those aren't part of the standard business accommodation. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. Mark's face cycled through surprise, anger, and finally settled on something like resignation. Grace, it's not, he started, but my phone buzzed. The gallery wanted to meet today to discuss my submission. I stood up, cutting him off. I have an appointment. Lily's lunch is packed. Don't forget she has dance class after school. Where are you going? His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Since when do you have appointments? Since I decided to stop pretending everything's fine. I grabbed my car keys. Maybe you should try it sometime. The gallery was smaller than I'd imagined, but warm and inviting. Sarah met me outside, practically bouncing with excitement. They never request meetings for first-time submissions, she whispered as we walked in. This is huge. The gallery director, an elegant woman in her 50s, introduced herself as Evelyn Holloway. My stomach dropped. Richard Holloway's wife. Mark's boss's wife. Your work is remarkable, Evelyn said, leading us to a quiet corner. Particularly storms and secrets. The emotion in those brushstrokes. It's raw. Personal. I thought of the stormy seascape I'd painted after discovering Mark's texts. Art helps me process things. Indeed. She studied me carefully. My husband mentions your name occasionally. Through Mark, of course. The air felt suddenly thick. Did she know about Andrea? About the hotel? I'd like to feature your pieces in our upcoming showcase, Evelyn continued. All three of them. They tell a powerful story of transformation and resilience. My phone buzzed again, Mark calling. I declined it. Thank you, I managed. That means more than you know. Leaving the gallery, Sarah grabbed my arm. Grace, this is amazing. But, are you okay? You look pale. Mark's been staying at hotels with her. The words tumbled out. I found the receipts this morning. That son of a, Sarah's phone chimed. She checked it and her expression changed. Oh, God. What? She turned her screen toward me. It was a Facebook post from Andrea, a selfie with Mark at lunch, his arm around her shoulders. The caption read, "Finally ready to stop hiding. Life's too short for secrets." My hands started shaking. When was this posted? 10 minutes ago. Called Mark. Straight to voicemail. I texted, Lily. Dance class. Don't forget. His response came instantly. Already picked her up. We need to talk. Come home. The house was quiet when I arrived. Lily's dance bag sat unopened by the door. She's at my mother's, Mark said from the living room. He looked terrible, tie loose, hair messy. I thought we needed privacy for this conversation. Privacy. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Like the privacy of the Mountain View Hotel? I was going to tell you. He ran his hands through his hair. After the promotion came through. Once things were settled. Settled? My voice rose. Our daughter is acting out at school. I found hotel receipts for your affair, and your girlfriend just announced it on Facebook. What exactly is settled? Andrea wasn't supposed to, he stopped, realizing his mistake too late. At least say her name with your whole chest, Mark. I headed for the stairs. I'm getting Lily's overnight bag. Grace, wait. His voice cracked. I'm scared, okay? Everything's falling apart at work. Richard's been watching me like a hawk, and you're suddenly having secret meetings. They're not secret. I'm just finally doing something for myself. I turned back to him. And unlike you, I'm not hiding it in hotel rooms. I left him standing there, my heart pounding but my mind surprisingly clear. In my studio, my paintings waited, witnesses to everything I couldn't say out loud. Soon, thanks to Evelyn, the whole town would see them too. Including Andrea. The morning of my first gallery meeting with Evelyn, I found divorce papers on Mark's desk. Not signed, just printed and waiting. Like a loaded gun left casually in plain sight. My hands didn't shake as I photographed them with my phone. That surprised me. Mrs. Holloway is ready for you, the gallery assistant said, leading me past walls of artwork to Evelyn's office. Through the window, I spotted Mark crossing the street toward the building. My stomach lurched. Grace, perfect timing. Evelyn's smile faltered as she noticed my expression. Is everything all right? Mark's heading this way. I moved away from the window. He doesn't know I'm here. Understanding flickered across Evelyn's face. She pressed a button on her desk phone. Claire, when Mr. Callahan arrives, please tell him I'm in meetings all afternoon. The door opened before Claire could respond. Mark stood there, looking expensive in his tailored suit, Andrea hovering behind him like a shadow. Richard said I'd find you here, he said to Evelyn, then turned to me. Though he didn't mention you'd be meeting with my wife. Ex-wife soon enough, Andrea muttered, just loud enough to hear. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. Evelyn stood, her presence suddenly commanding. Mark, I'm discussing a significant commission with Grace. Unless you're here to discuss art. Commission? Mark's laugh was harsh. Grace doesn't do commissions. She paints in our spare room to keep busy. Actually, Evelyn moved to a covered canvas in the corner, she does extraordinary work. This piece particularly moved our selection committee. She unveiled my painting, the stormy seascape with the lighthouse. But now, seeing it under professional lighting, I noticed details I hadn't consciously included. The lighthouse bore a subtle resemblance to me, standing alone against waves that looked suspiciously like grasping hands. Andrea stepped closer, her confidence wavering. That's intense. It's truth on canvas, Evelyn said simply. The gallery is prepared to offer. No. Mark's voice cracked like a whip. Grace needs to focus on our family right now. On Lily. Interesting timing, I said, finding my voice. Considering the divorce papers on your desk this morning. Andrea's head snapped toward Mark. Apparently, he hadn't shared that detail with her. You went through my desk? His face flushed. You left them out. Like you left your hotel receipts in the browser history. Like Andrea left that Facebook post up for 3 hours before deleting it. I turned to Evelyn. I accept the commission. All terms. Grace, Mark started, but his phone buzzed. Color drained from his face as he read the message. Problem? Andrea asked, touching his arm. Richard wants to see me. Now. He looked up, real fear in his eyes for the first time. What did you do? I didn't do anything, Mark. I just stopped hiding. I gathered my purse, suddenly exhausted. Like Andrea said, life's too short for secrets. Evelyn walked me out, leaving Mark and Andrea in her office. Through the glass, I saw them arguing in harsh whispers. Richard doesn't tolerate scandal, Evelyn said quietly. Especially not from employees gunning for partnership. I never meant to cause trouble with Mark's job. No, but your art told the truth he was trying to hide. She handed me a business card. My personal number. Call anytime. And Grace. She paused. The commission isn't just about the art. It's about supporting artists who dare to stand in their truth. At home, I found Lily in my studio, adding careful brushstrokes to her own small canvas. She'd painted 3 figures, one tall, one medium, one small, standing under a rainbow. Is that us? I asked, sitting beside her. It was. She dabbed more blue paint onto her brush. Now I'm making the tall ones smaller. Like when caterpillars get small in their cocoon before becoming butterflies. I stared at her painting, seeing the wisdom in her 6-year-old metaphor. Sometimes things had to break down completely before they could transform into something new. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard Holloway. My office, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring your portfolio. I looked at Lily's painting again, at the shrinking figure under the rainbow, and felt something like hope unfold its wings in my chest. Richard Holloway's office felt like a courtroom, all dark wood and judgment. My portfolio sat unopened on his desk while he studied me with the same intensity I'd seen in Evelyn's gallery. Your husband's been up for partnership for 3 years, he said finally. Did you know that? I shook my head, remembering all the late nights Mark had claimed were for partnership track. He's talented, but lately, Richard tapped my portfolio. Well, let's just say talent isn't everything. Opening it, he revealed my stormy seascape. Unlike this is both talent and truth. I'm not here to discuss Mark, I said, but Richard held up his hand. Andrea's resignation letter arrived this morning. Apparently, she's taking a position at our competitor. He leaned back. The same competitor Mark's been sharing confidential information with. My breath caught. What? Those hotel meetings weren't just personal, Mrs. Callahan. They were professional betrayals. Before I could process this, his office door burst open. Mark stood there, face twisted with rage. You had no right. I had every right, Richard replied calmly. Just as the board has every right to review your correspondence with Bradford and Associates. Mark. Andrea peered behind him, eyes red. You said we'd start fresh there. Together. Pieces clicked into place. Mark hadn't just been planning to leave me. He'd been planning to take our biggest client with him. You're both free to leave, Richard said. Security will escort you out. I watched them go, feeling strangely hollow. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Check your email now. The local arts magazine had featured my upcoming gallery show. The preview included photos of my work, including one I hadn't submitted, an intimate family portrait I'd painted years ago showing Mark, Lily, and me in happier times. The caption read, Rising artist Grace Callahan explores themes of betrayal and redemption. That photo wasn't supposed to be included, Evelyn said from the doorway. She'd appeared so quietly I hadn't heard her come in. Andrea leaked it to the press, along with some creative interpretations of your work's meaning. My phone exploded with notifications. The story was spreading, with Andrea's spin turning my art into a public accusation. Comments flooded in, strangers dissecting my marriage like entertainment. I never wanted this, I whispered. No one ever does, Richard said. But sometimes exposure is the best disinfectant. Back home, I found the house empty except for a note from my mother-in-law. Took Lily for ice cream. She's asking questions about the magazine article. In my studio, I stared at my latest unfinished painting, a woman emerging from shadows into light. But now it felt tainted, twisted by public scrutiny into something vengeful rather than transformative. The front door slammed. Mark's footsteps on the stairs, then his figure in my doorway. Happy now. His voice was raw. You've destroyed everything I built. You destroyed it, I said, not turning around. I just painted the truth. The truth. He laughed bitterly. The truth is I was suffocating here, watching you play at being an artist while I carried everything on my shoulders. Play at being, I spun to face him. I supported your career for years, Mark. I raised our daughter. I buried my dreams so you could chase yours. And now, he gestured at my paintings. Now you're what, some brave whistleblower? The wronged woman getting her revenge through art. No. I picked up my brush, turning back to my canvas. I'm just finally painting my own story instead of living in yours. He was quiet for a long moment. Andrea's leaving for Bradford and Associates tonight. She wants me to go with her. I added a streak of gold to the emerging woman's hair, Lily's color. Then go. Grace. His voice cracked. What are you going to tell Lily? I thought of her painting, the shrinking figure under the rainbow. The truth. That sometimes people need to leave to figure out who they really are. After he left, I stayed in my studio, painting until the light faded. My phone kept buzzing with messages and comments, but I ignored them all. Let them talk. Let them judge. The real story was emerging on my canvas, stroke by stroke, truth by truth. And this time I was holding the brush. The gallery opening should have been my triumph. Instead, I stood in the corner watching my life unravel on social media. Andrea had gone viral with her expose about my art being a calculated revenge campaign, and now reporters lurked outside, hoping to catch the drama they'd been promised. You don't have to do this tonight, Sarah whispered, squeezing my arm. We can postpone. I watched Evelyn greeting guests, steering conversations away from scandal toward artistic merit. If I don't do it now, I'll always be the woman who painted her revenge instead of her truth. Crowd parted and there was Mark with Lily. My heart stopped. She wasn't supposed to be here. Mommy! She ran to me, wearing the dress she'd picked for her school art show. Daddy said I could come see your paintings. Mark's smile was razor sharp. She should see what her mother's been working on, don't you think? Before I could respond, a reporter shouldered past security. Mr. Callahan, how does it feel seeing your private life exposed through your wife's art? Lily's grip on my hand tightened. Why are they talking about our private life? That's enough. Richard appeared, signaling security. But Mark was already moving toward my centerpiece, the lighthouse painting. You want to know how it feels? His voice carried across the gallery. It feels like watching someone rewrite history. These paintings? They're lies. Beautiful lies. Mark, please. I tried to pull Lily away, but she resisted. The real story, he continued, is about a woman so desperate for attention she'd destroy her family for it. The reporter's camera flashed. Lily started crying. That's not true. I shouldn't have shouted, but the words burst out. The real story is about a man who betrayed everything, his wife, his company, his daughter, for his own selfish. Stop it! Lily wrenched free, running toward the exit. She collided with a waiter, sending glasses crashing. In the chaos that followed, I found her huddled in the gallery's back office, hands over her ears. I hate the paintings, she sobbed. I hate them. My chest felt like it was caving in. Baby, I'm so sorry. I never meant. You made Daddy look like the bad monster in my nightmares. She pointed at a sketch visible through the office window, one I'd done of Mark in darker moments. But he's not a monster. He's just sad. Like you're sad. Like I'm sad. The truth in her words hit harder than any viral story or public humiliation. I told myself I was painting truth, but I'd been painting pain and making my daughter carry it. Grace. Evelyn stood in the doorway. The buyers are waiting. We need to cancel it. I stood up, my decision crystallizing. Cancel the whole show. You can't. Mark appeared behind her. Isn't this what you wanted? Everyone seeing your truth? No. I looked at Lily, then at the paintings that had become weapons instead of windows. I wanted to be seen. But not like this. Not at her expense. Then what was it all for? Question came from Andrea, who'd somehow slipped in during the commotion. I thought of my latest painting, the woman emerging from shadows. I'd been so focused on the emergence, I'd forgotten about the shadows I was casting. It was supposed to be about healing, I said quietly. I forgot that healing doesn't happen in public. Taking Lily's hand, I walked past them all, past the whispers and cameras, straight to my centerpiece. The lighthouse still stood proud against the storm, but now I saw what Lily saw, not strength in solitude, but the cost of standing alone. Take me home, Mommy, Lily whispered. Home. Not the battlefield our house had become, but somewhere new. Somewhere we could all heal, separately, quietly, away from the storm of public judgment. Okay, baby. I kissed her head, feeling the fight drain out of me. Let's go home. Behind us, the gallery erupted in fresh chaos as Mark faced the press alone. But for the first time in months, I didn't look back. Some battles aren't worth winning if the price is your soul. 3 days after the gallery disaster, I found Mark sitting in my darkened studio, staring at my unfinished paintings. The divorce papers lay signed on my workbench. Bradford and Associates rescinded their offer, he said without looking up. Apparently, dating the competition's newest executive while leaking company secrets isn't great for job prospects. I switched on the lights. Empty whiskey glass by his feet. Another in his hand. Where's Andrea? Gone. He laughed hollowly. Turns out she was recording our conversations. building her case for promotion while He gestured vaguely at the chaos around us. Why are you here, Mark? Richard offered me a chance to stay. His voice cracked. Demoted but employed. If I agree to counseling and sign a new non-compete agreement. That's good, right? He stood suddenly, swaying slightly. Good? I lost everything because you had to prove something with your art. Because you couldn't just be happy with what we had. Happy? The word tasted bitter. Like you were happy sneaking around with Andrea? Happy watching me shrink myself to fit your idea of a proper wife? I never asked you to shrink yourself. You never had to. I grabbed the nearest canvas, the woman emerging from shadows. You just dismissed everything that made me me until I started believing I was nothing but your wife, Lily's mother. And now, he gestured at the paintings. Now you're some brave truth-teller? The wronged woman getting her revenge through art. This isn't about revenge anymore. I turned the canvas toward him. Look closer. He squinted at the painting, really seeing it for the first time. The woman wasn't just emerging from shadows. She was reaching back into them, trying to pull something else into the light. That's... His voice faltered. It's us. All of us. I started it the night Lily cried about your special friend. I realized we were all trapped in darkness, you and your lies, me and my anger, Lily and our mess. The fight seemed to drain from him. He sank back onto the stool. I was suffocating, he whispered. The pressure at work, at home. I couldn't be what everyone needed. Neither could I. I set the canvas down gently. But I found my way out through art. What's yours, Mark? He pulled something from his pocket, a worn guitar pick. Remember when we first met? At that open mic night? I nodded. He'd played original songs back then, before corporate life consumed him. Richard said something interesting. Said sometimes we have to lose everything to remember who we really are. He turned the pick over in his hands. I haven't written a song in 7 years. A small sound made us both turn. Lily stood in the doorway, clutching her own painting, the one with the shrinking figure under the rainbow. Is Daddy leaving again? She asked. Mark moved toward her, but I got there first, kneeling down. No, baby. Daddy's finding himself. Just like Mommy did. Through painting. Through music, Mark said softly. If that's okay. Lily studied her painting, then held it out to him. The small person isn't scared anymore. Just changing. Mark took the painting with trembling hands. Something shifted in his face, like clouds breaking after a storm. The papers are signed, I said. But maybe this doesn't have to be an ending. Just a different kind of truth, he finished. Later, after Mark left to check into a hotel, I found a new text from Evelyn. Private showing next month? Just your new work. The real story, not the scandal. I looked at my unfinished painting, the woman reaching back into shadows. It needed something else now. Not just emergence, but evolution. Not just one figure finding the light, but all of us transforming in our own ways. I picked up my brush. This time, I knew exactly what truth looked like. 6 months later, I stood in a different gallery, surrounded by new paintings. No reporters this time, no scandal. Just art lovers studying my latest collection, Metamorphosis. The anonymous buyer is here, Evelyn whispered, appearing at my elbow. The one who purchased your entire first collection. I followed her gaze to a familiar figure studying my centerpiece, the completed woman emerging from shadows. Only now she wasn't alone. Other figures emerged with her, each holding their own light. Hello, Grace. Mark looked different, lighter somehow. Corporate suits replaced by casual clothes, a guitar case slung over his shoulder. These are incredible. You're the anonymous buyer? He nodded. Seemed right somehow. Keeping the original story private where it belonged. Before I could respond, Lily burst in from the children's art room next door, her hands covered in paint. "Daddy! Come see my butterfly painting. Mom taught me about metamorphosis," we said together. I watched them head to the children's gallery, where Lily's art hung alongside other young artists. Her recent paintings showed 3 separate butterflies, each emerging from its own cocoon yet flying in formation. "She's healing," Sarah said, joining me. "You all are. Different kinds of healing." I gestured to my new works. "That's what this collection is about." Paintings told stories of transformation, not just escape from darkness, but the courage to bring light back to others still trapped there. Canvas showed figures helping others emerge, sharing their brightness. "Grace," Richard Holloway approached with a younger man. "This is Jason from the Children's Hospital Foundation. He's interested in commissioning a series for their new wing. Art therapy for the families," Jason explained. "Your work speaks to people going through difficult transformations, helps them feel less alone." As we discussed the project, I caught glimpses of Mark through the gallery. He was different with Lily now, more present, more genuine. The weekly therapy sessions were helping, and his new job teaching music gave him the creative outlet he'd denied himself for so long. Later, as the crowd thinned, I found him studying my final piece, a triptych showing 3 stages of metamorphosis. The first panel showed figures in darkness, the second in transformation, and the third— "They're dancing," he said quietly. "In their own lights, but together." "It's not about forgiveness," I said. "Or forgetting." "I know." He touched the frame gently. "It's about becoming who we really are, even if that means becoming something different than before." Lily appeared between us, taking both our hands. "Can we get ice cream?" "All of us." I met Mark's eyes over her head. We weren't those people in the first panel anymore, lost in darkness, hurting each other. We weren't even the ones in the second panel, struggling through painful transformation. We were something new. Not together, but not entirely apart. "Ice cream sounds perfect," I said. As we walked out, Evelyn stopped me. "The hospital commission isn't the only offer. There's serious interest from several collectors. I'll look at the proposals tomorrow." I watched Lily skipping ahead, Mark following with his guitar case. "Tonight's about something else." She smiled knowingly. "Art isn't just about capturing pain, is it? It's about transforming it." In the warm evening light, we walked to the ice cream shop, not as a reunited family, but as 3 people who had found their own ways of shining. Lily chattered about her butterfly paintings, Mark hummed a new song he was writing, and I thought about the hospital commission, about using art to help others find their light. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in striking back, but in growing beyond the darkness that tried to contain you. And sometimes healing means learning to dance in your own light while celebrating the light in others, even those who once cast the shadows you had to escape. That's the truth I finally learned to paint.
Money has a way of revealing the monsters hiding in plain sight. I learned this truth on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon while debugging code at my desk, when an email from an unknown sender landed in my inbox. The subject line read, "Your husband's secret account, proof attached. Another tale awaits. But first, I'd love to know your location. Drop it in the comments, and if you're enjoying these stories, hit that subscribe button to stay connected." I'm Fiona, and until that moment, I thought I knew everything about my marriage to Brian. We were the perfect tech couple, 2 software developers building our dream life together, saving for a house, planning for kids. The kind of couple others looked at with envy. My cursor hovered over the delete button. Spam, obviously. But something made me click. Maybe it was the specificity of the subject line, or maybe some part of me already knew what I'd find. The PDF attachment showed transaction records spanning 3 years. Regular transfers from Brian's personal account to his mother Carol and sister Emily. Thousands each month, steadily draining our future away like a slow leak we'd never noticed. "Hey, Fi, want to grab lunch?" Brian's voice made me jump. He stood in my office doorway, smiling that easy smile I'd always trusted. Actually, I said, turning my monitor slightly, I think we need to talk about this. His face changed the moment he saw the screen. Not surprise, guilt. He knew exactly what I was looking at. I can explain, he said, closing my office door. Mom and Emily, they're struggling. Greg still can't find work, and with Tommy's therapy. 3 years, I cut him off. You've been hiding this for 3 years. While we put off buying a house, starting a family. My voice cracked, but I forced it steady. How much total? He wouldn't meet my eyes. Around $90,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. $90,000. Our down payment. Our future. Emily posts about their vacations, I said. Your mother just bought a new car. That's what our money is funding. Their family, Brian said, as if that explained everything. What was I supposed to do? Tell me the truth? Let me have a say in our financial decisions? I pulled up another transaction. $2,000 last week. What was that for? Tommy's birthday party. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. $2,000 for a 5-year-old's birthday party. While we live in a 1-bedroom apartment because we're saving responsibly. Fi, please try to understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I closed the email, my hands steady despite the rage building inside me. Your mother and sister have been manipulating you for years, and you've been letting them. That's not fair. They need help. They need consequences, I snapped. And so do you. Brian reached for my hand, but I pulled away. We can work this out, he said. I'll tell them we need to cut back. We'll make a plan. No, I said, standing up. You've been making plans behind my back long enough. Now it's my turn. What does that mean? I grabbed my bag, needing to get out of there before I said something I couldn't take back. It means I'm going home early. Don't follow me. I need time to think. Fiona, please. And Brian? I paused at the door. Call your mother. Tell her the gravy train is about to derail. Walking to my car, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was still there, but something else was rising to take its place. Something colder, more calculated. If Carol and Emily wanted to play games with my marriage, they were about to learn they'd picked the wrong opponent. I had 90,000 reasons to make them regret it. 3 days after discovering Brian's betrayal, I sat at his mother's dining table, watching her serve lasagna with the precision of a surgeon. Carol Thompson's dinner parties were always an exercise in careful manipulation, but tonight I saw the machinery behind her motherly smile. Emily tells me you're still renting that tiny apartment, Carol said, sliding a generous portion onto my plate. Aren't you two ready for something more permanent? I felt Brian tense beside me. We're working on it, Mom. Working on it? Emily chimed in from across the table, bouncing Tommy on her knee. But you make so much money. Both of you do. I took a slow sip of wine, noting how Greg barely looked up from his phone. The new gaming console on their entertainment center caught my eye, another gift from Brian, no doubt. Actually, I said, keeping my voice light, we've been discussing our financial goals lately. Haven't we, Brian? He coughed, nearly choking on his water. Fiona. Oh. Carol's smile tightened. What kind of goals? Starting a family, I said. Saving for a house. The usual dreams. I turned to Emily. Speaking of houses, I saw your Instagram post about wanting to upgrade. How much are you thinking of spending? Emily's face flushed. Well, with Tommy's needs. What needs? I asked innocently. I thought his therapy was covered by insurance. It's complicated, Carol cut in smoothly. Brian understands how important family support is, don't you, sweetheart? I watched my husband shrink under his mother's gaze, and something snapped inside me. Support is wonderful, I said. But there's a difference between support and exploitation. The room went silent. Even Greg looked up from his phone. I don't like what you're implying, Carol said, her voice dangerously soft. Mom, Brian started, but I placed my hand on his arm. I'm not implying anything, I said. I'm stating facts. Like the fact that Tommy's birthday party cost more than our monthly rent. Or that Emily's struggling family somehow affords weekly spa days while we put our lives on hold. How dare you? Emily's voice cracked. We're barely getting by. Greg's still looking for work. Really? I pulled out my phone. Because according to LinkedIn, he's turned down 3 job offers this year. Isn't that right, Greg? Greg's face went pale. Emily turned to him, genuine shock in her expression. Is that true? They weren't the right fit, he mumbled. Nothing ever is, I said, standing up. Thank you for dinner, Carol. But I think it's time Brian and I had an honest conversation about family. Real family. Sit down, Carol commanded. We're not finished here. Actually, we are. I turned to Brian. Are you coming? The moment stretched like glass about to shatter. Brian looked between his mother and me, years of conditioning warring with the truth he could no longer ignore. Brian, Carol's voice dripped with warning. Think carefully about what you're doing. He stood up slowly. I'm going home with my wife. The drive home was silent until we pulled into our parking spot. They'll never forgive me for this, Brian whispered. Good, I said. Maybe it's time they learned actions have consequences. What are you planning, Fi? I thought about the evidence I'd been gathering, the paper trail of manipulation and lies. Justice, I said simply. Unless you're planning to stop me? He was quiet for a long moment. No, he finally said. But be careful. You don't know what they're capable of. I smiled, thinking of the email I'd received that morning from Greg's last potential employer. Neither do they, Brian. Neither do they. As we walked to our apartment, my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. You'll regret this. Family is forever. I screenshot the message, adding it to my growing collection. They thought they were playing chess, but this was about to become a completely different game. And I was done playing by their rules. The coffee shop across from Emily's yoga studio provided the perfect vantage point. I watched her emerge in designer workout gear, Tommy trailing behind her like a forgotten afterthought. No signs of the struggling single mom she portrayed in her tearful phone calls to Brian. Look who it is, a voice said. I turned to find Greg sliding into the seat across from me, unshaven and reeking of stale beer at 11 in the morning. Stalking your own wife? I asked. He laughed, hollow and tired. Following yours, more like. Emily's been watching your moves since the dinner. Says you're trying to destroy our family. Interesting choice of words, considering what your family's doing to mine. Greg's eyes drifted to Emily and Tommy getting into their new SUV. You think I don't know what they are? Carol and Emily, they're like poison. Sweet poison. That's surprisingly self-aware for someone who's been living off my husband's salary. You found those job offers, he said. Not a question. Did you also find the ones Carol sabotaged? That made me pause. What? 3 perfect positions. Carol called each company, posed as a reference. Said I had gambling problems, drug issues. He smiled bitterly. Can't prove it, of course. But the timing was perfect, right when Emily was pregnant with Tommy. My phone buzzed, a text from Brian. Emily just called. Says Tommy's therapy got cancelled. Needs emergency money. I showed Greg the message. Therapy, huh? Tommy's never been in therapy, Greg said quietly. That's just their code for Emily's shopping sprees. The pieces clicked together. How long have they been running this scam? Since before Tommy was born. Carol orchestrates, Emily executes. They've got it down to a science. And you just let it happen? His face darkened. You think I had a choice? Try going against Carol Thompson. See how fast your life falls apart. I pulled out my laptop, opened a folder labeled Evidence. Maybe we can help each other, Greg. I've been gathering proof, bank statements, social media posts, timestamps. But I need more. They'll destroy you, he warned. Like they destroyed me. No, I said, turning the screen to show him. They'll try. But unlike you, I'm fighting back. Greg stared at the documentation I'd collected. There's something else you should see. He pulled out his phone, showed me a video of Emily and Carol in what looked like a heated argument. Turn up the volume, I said. Can't keep bleeding him dry, Emily was saying. Fiona's onto us. That little programmer thinks she can outmaneuver me? Carol's laugh was chilling. I raised Brian. I own him. And soon, we'll own that house they're saving for. Jesus, I whispered. There's more, Greg said. They're planning something big. Using Tommy as bait. My phone buzzed again, another text from Brian. Emily says Tommy's asking for us. Wants to know if we can take him for the weekend. There it is, Greg said. Phase 1. I felt cold anger settling in my chest. What's their play? They'll claim you hurt him. Or neglected him. Something just bad enough to force Brian to choose, his nephew's safety or his marriage. They'd use their own child like that? Greg's laugh was bitter. They'd use anyone. Tommy's just another pawn. I started packing up my laptop. Not anymore. I'm ending this. How? I showed him the email I'd drafted to Brian's entire family, CC'd to their employers, friends, and Tommy's school. Attached were videos, bank statements, text messages, a complete record of their manipulation. That'll destroy everything, Greg said. Including you and Brian. Sometimes you have to burn it all down to build something new. I stood up. Are you with me? He looked at Emily's car, now disappearing around the corner. What do you need? Everything you have. Every lie, every scheme, every manipulation. It's time for the truth. Greg nodded slowly. Tomorrow. I'll bring it all. As I walked to my car, another text came through, from Carol this time, family dinner Sunday. Non-negotiable. Time to discuss Tommy's future. I smiled. Perfect timing. They thought they were setting a trap, but they were walking right into mine. Sunday dinner would be memorable indeed. Let the games begin. The manila envelope sat between Brian and me on our kitchen table like a loaded gun. Greg had delivered as promised, every receipt, every manipulative text. Every calculated move his wife and mother-in-law had orchestrated over the years. They used Tommy's college fund, Brian said, his voice hollow as he read through the documents. The money I sent them every month for his future. Emily spent it on designer bags and spa treatments. I watched his hands shake as he turned another page. There's more. The therapy sessions that never happened, he continued. The medical bills they claimed weren't covered by insurance. All lies. He looked up at me, something broken in his eyes. How did I not see it? Because they didn't want you to. I pulled out my phone, showed him the video Greg had captured. Listen. Carol's voice filled our kitchen. Brian's always been soft. Malleable. Just like his father was before. Before what? Brian's voice was sharp. I hesitated. Greg sent more footage. About your father. The color drained from his face. Play it. Carol's voice again. Richard thought he could leave me. Take my son away. But I showed him what happens when you cross me. Brian never knew about the affairs I invented, the colleagues I turned against him. By the time I was done, he couldn't even get a job in another state. Brian stood up so quickly his chair crashed to the floor. She destroyed him. All those years. He didn't abandon us. She drove him away. Brian. And now they're planning to use Tommy the same way. Their own grandson. He pressed his palms against the counter, knuckles white. We have to stop them. We will. I moved beside him, careful not to touch. But you need to be sure. Once we do this, there's no going back. His phone buzzed, Emily's name flashing on the screen. He answered on speaker. Brian? Emily's voice trembled. Tommy's asking for you. He's so upset. He says he doesn't feel safe here anymore. I watched Brian's jaw clench. The old manipulation, but now we could see the strings. What happened, Emily? It's Greg. He's been drinking again, getting angry. I need you to take Tommy for a while. Maybe permanently? Brian's eyes met mine. We both knew what this was, the trap Greg had warned us about. Of course, Brian said smoothly. Bring him over tomorrow. We'll take good care of him. After he hung up, I raised an eyebrow. You're playing their game? No, he said, a cold determination in his voice I'd never heard before. I'm ending it. Tommy deserves better than to be their weapon. They'll try to destroy us. Let them try. He picked up his phone again, dialed a number. Hello, Child Protective Services. I need to report suspected child exploitation and emotional abuse. I felt a chill. This wasn't part of my plan, it was better. What are you doing? What I should have done years ago. Protecting my nephew. He looked at the scattered evidence on our table. We have proof they're using him for financial manipulation. Neglecting his actual needs. And now they're trying to use him to blackmail us. Carol will retaliate. Good. Brian's smile was sharp. Because I just filed for a restraining order against her. The evidence you gathered, plus Greg's testimony. It's enough. More than enough. My phone chimed, a message from Greg, Emily's planning something big. Be careful. They're moving faster than we thought, I said. Brian gathered the documents, his movements precise and controlled. So will we. I'm done letting them hurt the people I love. He paused, looking at me. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Better late than never, I said, but my mind was already racing ahead. Carol and Emily's desperation made them dangerous. They'd try something drastic now that their usual tactics had failed. As if reading my thoughts, Brian said, whatever they're planning, we'll face it together. I nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would bring something none of us were prepared for. The game had changed, it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival. Emily's latest Instagram post appeared on my screen, a tearful selfie with Tommy sleeping in the background. The caption read, "Sometimes the hardest battles are fought behind closed doors. Praying for strength as my sweet boy faces another challenge. #SingleMomStruggle #pray for us." The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m. Right after our Child Protective Services report went through. My phone buzzed, Greg's number. She's gone, he said without preamble. Took Tommy and disappeared. Left a note saying she's protecting him from all of us. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. When? An hour ago. Carol picked them up. I was already moving, shaking Brian awake. He sat up instantly at my expression. They're running, I said. His face hardened as he checked his phone. 6 missed calls from Mom. Voice message. He put it on speaker, "You ungrateful children. Did you really think you could threaten us with CPS? Emily's right, you're both unstable. Don't worry about Tommy. We'll make sure he's safe from your toxic influence. Another Instagram notification popped up, Emily going live. I clicked it, my stomach churning. I never wanted to do this publicly, Emily's voice trembled perfectly. But after what happened? My own brother and his wife. The threats. I have to protect my son. Comments flooded in, stay strong. Praying for you. What happened? Brian's hands clenched into fists as Emily spun her tale. Our harassment, our attempts to steal Tommy, our mental instability. Each lie more calculated than the last. They're setting us up, I said. Making us look like the villains before CPS can investigate. Location services, Brian suddenly said, grabbing his laptop. Emily's phone, I'm still her emergency contact. I can track it. While he worked, I scrolled through Emily's social media history with new eyes. Every post, every sympathy-grabbing story had been building to this moment. Creating a public record of our instability, while painting herself as the victim. Got them, Brian said. They're heading north on the interstate. To the lake house, I realized. Carol's secret property. The one she bought with our money, Brian's voice was ice. Perfect place to hide until CPS closes the case. My phone lit up with a text from Carol, last chance. Drop the CPS report, or Emily goes public with evidence of your abuse. Your choice. I showed Brian. What evidence? Doesn't matter, he said. They'll manufacture something. They always do. I opened my laptop, pulled up the folder of evidence I'd been gathering. Then maybe it's time we go public first. Fiona. Look at the comments on Emily's live stream. Hundreds of people already think we're monsters. If we wait, their narrative wins. But exposing everything. It could hurt Tommy. The truth of that hit me hard. In my quest for revenge, had I become just like them, willing to use a child as collateral damage? My phone buzzed again, Greg. Emily just posted your address in a private mother's group, claiming you're dangerous. People are sharing it. You need to be careful. Brian's expression changed. That's it. That's their play. Force us to react, make us look unstable. So we don't react, I said slowly. We let them think they've won. What do you mean? I started typing, my fingers flying over the keyboard. Emily's not the only one who can use social media. But instead of fighting back, we show concern. Post about how worried we are that she's disappeared with Tommy. Share resources about family trauma and manipulation. Let the truth speak for itself. Brian watched as I worked, understanding dawning. They're expecting a fight. Exactly. So we give them the opposite. While they're waiting for us to explode. We're actually following their trail to the lake house, he finished. With CPS and the police. I hit post on my first carefully worded message of concern for Emily and Tommy. Within minutes, the tone of comments began to shift. Ready? I asked Brian. He nodded, already grabbing his keys. They taught me everything I know about manipulation. Time to show them how well I learned. As we headed for the car, another notification popped up, Emily going live again. But this time, we weren't watching. We were moving. The game was changing, and they didn't even know it yet. The lake house loomed before us in the pre-dawn darkness, its windows glowing like warning signals. Brian killed the engine a quarter-mile away, and we crept closer through the woods. My phone vibrated, another message from Greg, CPS is 30 minutes out. Emily still live streaming, claiming you're stalking them. A child's cry pierced the night. Tommy. He sounds scared, Brian whispered. Through the kitchen window, we could see Carol pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Emily sat at the table, still performing for her phone camera, tears streaming perfectly down her cheeks. And now they're threatening to take Tommy away, Emily's voice carried through the partially open window. My own brother, corrupted by that woman. Quiet, Brian hissed, pulling me deeper into the shadows as Carol stepped onto the back deck. The papers are ready, Carol spoke into her phone. Once Emily signs, the house transfer will be complete. They'll have no choice but to back off once we own their property. My blood ran cold. I pulled out my phone, checked our joint account. The down payment we'd saved, gone. Transferred to Carol's account 10 minutes ago. Brian, I showed him the screen. How did they? My passwords, he said, face ashen. Mom always knew them. I never changed. A new voice cut through the night, Greg's. He strode up the front path, Tommy's favorite stuffed dinosaur in his hand. Emily, he called out. Let me see my son. Emily appeared at the door, phone still recording. Stay back. I have a restraining order. No, you don't, Greg's voice was steady. Just like Tommy's not in therapy, and you're not a single mother. Stop lying, Emily. He's drunk, Carol announced loudly for Emily's stream. Everyone witnessed this. I'm sober, Greg said. First time in years. Clear enough to testify about everything, the fake medical bills, the manipulation, all of it. Carol's smile turned predatory. Testify? With your history of alcoholism and domestic violence? My heart sank. Of course they had documentation, probably manufactured years ago for exactly this moment. Now, Carol continued, unless you want those police reports to resurface, take your dramatic performance elsewhere. We're busy saving Tommy from actual abusers. Greg's shoulders slumped. He dropped the dinosaur and walked away, defeated. Time to end this, I whispered to Brian, stepping forward. Wait, he grabbed my arm. Too late. The motion sensor lights flooded the yard, exposing us. There. Emily shrieked, camera whirling to catch us. They found us. They're trying to break in. Carol's smile was triumphant. Right on cue. Emily, call the police. Brian, I expected better from you. Breaking and entering? Stalking? What will your employer think? You stole our house, I said, my voice shaking. No, dear. You transferred the down payment willingly, the paperwork shows that clearly. Just like the paperwork shows your history of unstable behavior and threats against Emily. Sirens wailed in the distance, but not CPS. Police. One last chance, Carol said. Drop everything, the CPS report, the accusations, all of it. We'll let you keep your jobs, your reputations. Otherwise. She held up a thick folder. These documents tell quite a story about workplace harassment, mental instability, and attempted kidnapping. Brian's hand found mine. You can't. I can do anything, Carol cut him off. I always have. The question is, how much are you willing to lose? The sirens grew closer. Through the window, I could see Tommy watching us, clutching his blanket. Emily's phone kept streaming, recording every moment of our apparent crime. Time's up, Carol said. Choose. I looked at Brian, saw the defeat in his eyes. Everything we'd built, everything we'd planned, gone. They'd beaten us at our own game, turned our evidence gathering against us. One wrong move now would cost us everything. The police cars appeared at the end of the drive, lights flashing. Well? Carol's voice dripped with victory. I opened my mouth to surrender, and my phone buzzed. A message from Greg, check your email. Now. Carol's smile faltered as she saw my expression change. Sometimes the best revenge isn't winning the game, but changing the rules entirely. I opened the email, and hope flickered back to life. Greg's email contained a single video file. I pressed play just as the police officers approached, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Everything's on record, Carol announced triumphantly. They broke onto private property. Actually, I interrupted, turning up my phone's volume, you should watch this first. The video showed Carol in her kitchen 3 years ago, coaching Emily. Just tell Brian you need the money for Tommy's therapy. He'll never check, he trusts you. And if Fiona ever catches on, we'll say you're being abused. No one questions a victim. Emily's voice, clear as crystal, but what if Greg talks? Please, Carol scoffed. We've got enough dirt on him to keep him quiet forever. Now, about that house they're saving for. I watched the color drain from Carol's face as her own voice continued detailing every manipulation, every planned accusation, every calculated move. Emily's phone clattered to the deck, live stream forgotten. Where did you? Greg's been recording everything, I said. For years. Insurance, he called it. Smart man. The police officers stopped, listening to the video's damning evidence. That's doctored, Carol snapped, but her voice trembled. Officer, they're harassing us. The metadata's intact, I cut in. Time stamps, location data, everything. And there's more. Every conversation about fake therapy sessions, every plan to exploit Brian's guilt, every dollar stolen from Tommy's future, all documented. Mom? Brian's voice cracked. Is this true? Even Dad? I protected you, Carol hissed. Everything I did was to keep this family together. By destroying it? Brian stepped forward. By using my nephew as a weapon? By driving away everyone who threatened your control? Emily burst into tears, real ones this time. You said we were helping Tommy. You said Brian owed us. Shut up, Carol snarled, but Emily was unraveling. The therapy money, Tommy's college fund, that was your idea. You said. I said shut up. The back door opened. Tommy stood there in his pajamas, clutching his blanket. Mommy? Why is everyone yelling? The silence that followed was deafening. Sir, one officer addressed Brian, we received reports of stalking and harassment. Play the rest of the video, I said quietly. Everything's there. Including the financial fraud and conspiracy to commit theft through coercion. Carol lunged for my phone, but Brian caught her arm. It's over, Mom. No more manipulation. No more lies. You ungrateful, she swung at him, but the officers moved quickly, restraining her. Carol Thompson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. Emily collapsed onto the deck, sobbing. Tommy, baby, go inside. He's coming with me, Greg's voice came from behind us. He stood with 2 CPS workers, their expressions grim as they reviewed documentation on a tablet. You can't, Emily started. Until this is sorted out, one worker said, Tommy needs a stable environment. Mr. Sanders has provided evidence of ongoing emotional abuse and exploitation of a minor. I watched Tommy run to Greg, saw the way he clung to his father. All the schemes, all the manipulation, and in the end, they'd forgotten the one person who mattered most. Brian, Carol called out as the officers led her away. You can't let them do this. I'm your mother. Brian didn't look at her. Instead, he turned to me. I'm sorry, he whispered. For everything. For not seeing it sooner. Fiona, Greg called out, Tommy in his arms. Thank you. For showing me there was another way. I nodded, watching Emily being questioned by police, Carol being placed in a patrol car. The careful documentation of years of manipulation coming to light. What now? Brian asked. I took his hand, thinking of the nursery we'd planned, the future we'd fought to protect. Now we build something new. Something honest. Behind us, the lake house stood silent, its windows dark, no longer a fortress of lies, but a monument to truth's inevitable victory. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies, but about refusing to let them destroy what matters most. Dawn was breaking over the water, and with it, the promise of a different kind of family. The nursery walls were half-painted when Greg's text arrived, Emily's asking to see Tommy. Says she's been getting help. I watched Brian's brush strokes falter, yellow paint dripping onto the drop cloth. We'd chosen yellow because it felt like hope, warm, uncertain, but persistent. "What do you think?" he asked, not turning around. Through the window, autumn leaves scattered across our new backyard, smaller than the one we'd originally planned, but ours free and clear. No manipulation, no hidden costs. "I think," I said carefully, "that's Tommy's father's decision to make." My phone buzzed again. A photo from Greg, his new office, his name on the door. Below it, first day as junior developer. "Thanks for the recommendation." Brian set down his brush. "Mom's sentencing is tomorrow." I know. The weight of that knowledge hung between us like smoke. Carol had pleaded guilty to reduced charges. But the evidence trail had led to other victims, other families she'd manipulated and destroyed over the years. The doorbell rang. Greg stood on our porch, Tommy clutching his hand. The boy wore a coding camp t-shirt, a gift from his father's new workplace. "Uncle Brian." Tommy rushed forward for a hug. "Dad's teaching me Python." "Already?" Brian laughed, genuine joy breaking through the day's tension. "Watch out, or he'll be competing for your job soon." "Actually," Greg cleared his throat, "we wanted to show you something, Fiona." He handed me his phone, open to Emily's private Instagram. No more victim posts or carefully staged suffering. Instead, a simple photo of her therapy group, caption reading, "Learning to break generational patterns." Day 47. "She's doing the work," Greg said quietly. "Real work, not just performance." Brian touched the yellow wall, paint still wet. "And Carol?" "Hasn't tried to contact either of us," Greg replied. "The counselor says that's probably best, for now." Tommy tugged at my sleeve. "Is the baby's room yellow like a duck?" "Like sunshine," I corrected, then caught myself. That's what Carol used to say, everything wrapped in pretty metaphors to hide harder truths. "Like yellow," I amended. "Just yellow." Greg nodded, understanding in his eyes. "We should go. Tommy's got coding class." "Wait," Brian said. "The birthday party next week. If you both wanted to come." The invitation hung there, fragile as a soap bubble. Not forgiveness, exactly. Something newer, more cautious. "We'll think about it," Greg said. "Right, buddy?" Tommy was already running back to the car, excited about his next lesson. Learning to build something, not break it. After they left, Brian resumed painting, his strokes more confident now. "You know what I realized? We spent so much time trying to get revenge, we almost missed the real victory." "Which was?" "Building this. Something true." He gestured around the nursery. "Mom always said family was about loyalty at any cost. But it's really about growth, isn't it? Even when it hurts." I touched my stomach, not yet showing but full of promise. "Speaking of growth." His brush clattered to the floor. "Are you?" "Found out this morning. Wanted to wait until after tomorrow's sentencing to tell you." He pulled me close, paint-stained hands and all. Through the window, I could see Tommy waving from Greg's car as they drove away. In my pocket, Emily's latest message waited for a response. And somewhere across town, Carol prepared to face the consequences of her choices. Revenge had been my first instinct, but healing proved to be the better path. Not perfect healing, some scars would always remain. But real healing, built on truth and boundaries and the courage to start again. Yellow really was the right choice, Brian murmured against my hair. I smiled, thinking of patterns broken and new ones forming. "It's just a color." "No," he said. "It's a beginning." Outside, autumn winds scattered more leaves across our yard. Tomorrow would bring Carol's sentencing, Emily's tentative steps toward change, Greg's new path. But today, in this room that smelled of fresh paint and possibility, we had already won something better than revenge. We had won our future.
I stared at my husband's phone, my fingers trembling as they hovered over the screen. 23 years of marriage, and here I was, invading his privacy like a common thief. The house felt too quiet, too still, as if holding its breath along with me. "Just put it down, Cora," I whispered to myself. But I couldn't. Not after seeing that notification flash across his screen while he showered. Not after weeks of late nights and vague explanations. The message preview taunted me, "Hannah, I miss you already." Last night was. My thumb pressed the home button before I could stop myself. No password required. Ben had never bothered changing it from our anniversary date. The irony wasn't lost on me. The full message materialized, "I miss you already." Last night was perfect. Can't wait to feel your arms around me again. Remember, delete these messages. My stomach lurched. The phone slipped from my grasp, landing face down on our kitchen counter. The same counter where Ben had surprised me with breakfast just last weekend, kissing my neck while I pretended to complain about the mess he'd made. The shower upstairs stopped running. I had maybe 2 minutes before he came down. I picked up the phone again, my hands steadier now. Anger has a way of clearing your vision. I scrolled through their conversation history, taking screenshots and sending them to myself. Each message was another nail in the coffin of my marriage. Getting tired of sneaking around. Soon, baby. I promise. You make me feel alive. Hannah. His former intern. The bright young thing who'd brought coffee to our company Christmas party last year. She couldn't be more than 22. Footsteps on the stairs. I placed his phone exactly where I'd found it and turned to the sink, running water over dishes that were already clean. "Morning, honey." Ben's voice was cheerful as he entered the kitchen. He wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, just like he always did. His familiar cologne made me want to vomit. "Morning." I kept scrubbing the spotless plate. "Good shower?" "Perfect. Though I'm running late." He reached past me for his phone. "Big meeting today." I watched his reflection in the window above the sink. Watched him check his messages, his expression never changing. Such a practiced liar. "Will you be home for dinner?" I asked, knowing the answer. Probably not. The Henderson project is in its final stages. He kissed my cheek. "Don't wait up." The Henderson project. Right. I wondered if that's what he called her when talking to his friends. "The boys are coming home this weekend," I said. "Evan's bringing his new girlfriend." "That's great." He was already heading for the door, attention fixed on his phone. "We'll catch up tonight." The front door closed. His car started. And just like that, I was alone with the knowledge that my life was imploding. I dried my hands and pulled out my own phone, looking at the screenshots I'd taken. My fingers hovered over Martha's number. My sister would know what to do. But I couldn't call her. Not yet. This felt too raw, too personal. Instead, I walked to our bedroom and opened Ben's closet. The familiar scent of his clothes hit me, and for a moment, I was tempted to bury my face in them and pretend this was all a nightmare. But there, on his navy suit jacket, the one he'd worn last night, was a long blonde hair. Hannah's signature platinum shade. I plucked it off carefully and placed it in an envelope. First piece of evidence secured. My hands weren't shaking anymore. In fact, they were perfectly steady as I reached for a suitcase on the top shelf. Let him have his Henderson project tonight. I had some planning of my own to do. The boys arrived home from college that weekend, bringing with them the familiar chaos of duffel bags and dirty laundry. I watched them from the kitchen window as they pulled into the driveway. Evan's beat-up Civic followed by Lucas's skateboard scraping against the pavement. My hands gripped the counter's edge, steadying myself for what was about to become the performance of my lifetime. Mom! Lucas burst through the door first, all gangly limbs and floppy hair. Where's Dad? I need him to look at my laptop. It's making this weird noise. Working late, I said, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. Henderson Project. Evan appeared behind his brother, eyes narrowing slightly. He'd always been more perceptive. Again? That's the third weekend this month. I busied myself with the pasta sauce I'd been stirring. You know how these final stages can be. Right. Evan dropped his bag by the door. Because real estate development requires so many late-night meetings. The wooden spoon clattered against the pot. Evan. I'm just saying. He crossed his arms, leaning against the doorframe. Something's different. You're different. Lucas looked between us, confusion clouding his features. What's going on? Nothing, I said, too quickly. Everything's fine. Evan, where's this girlfriend we're supposed to meet? She couldn't make it. His eyes didn't leave my face. Had a family thing. The front door opened again, and Ben's voice called out, "Hello? Anyone home?" My stomach clenched. He wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I'd counted on having more time to prepare, to perfect my act. In the kitchen, I called back, forcing brightness into my voice. Look who's home. Ben appeared, wearing the same suit from this morning, his tie loosened. No lipstick stains this time. He must be getting better at cleaning up after himself. My boys. He embraced them both, and I watched their faces carefully. Lucas melted into the hug, but Evan remained stiff, his jaw tight. Thought you had work, Evan said. Wrapped up early. Couldn't miss family dinner. Ben's smile was perfect, practiced. He turned to me. Something smells amazing, honey. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. The sauce bubbled, reminding me of the anger simmering just beneath my surface. Actually, Evan said, I wanted to talk to you both about something. He pulled out his phone. I ran into Uncle James at the coffee shop near campus last week. He mentioned seeing you, Dad, at that new restaurant downtown. Said you were having quite the business dinner. The kitchen went silent. Ben's smile didn't waver, but I saw his hand twitch slightly. Must have been someone else, Ben said smoothly. I haven't been to any new restaurants lately. Weird. Evan scrolled through his phone. Because he sent me a picture. Said he was going to forward it to you both, but I guess he forgot. My heart raced. I hadn't known about this. Hadn't planned for it. Let me see, Lucas said, reaching for the phone. No! Ben and I spoke simultaneously, then looked at each other. Lucas stepped back, hurt flashing across his face. What's going on? Why are you both acting so weird? Your father's tired, I said, switching off the stove. And dinner's ready. Why don't we all just... Stop it, Mom. Evan's voice cracked. Stop pretending everything's okay when it's not. We're not kids anymore. Ben moved toward him. Son. Don't. Evan backed away. Don't pretend you care about this family when you're out there. Enough. I slammed my hand on the counter. They all jumped. Evan, help Lucas set the table. Ben, a word in the study. Now. As I followed Ben down the hallway, I caught Evan's eye. The pain there, the betrayal, it mirrored my own. But beneath it was something else, determination. In that moment, I realized I wasn't the only one planning revenge. The question was, whose would come first? Martha's garden always smelled like lavender and secrets. I sat at her wrought iron patio table, clutching my phone so tightly my knuckles had gone white. The email I'd just received from Hannah's doctor's office, forwarded to me by accident thanks to Ben's shared email account, burned in my mind like a brand. 12 weeks, I said, my voice hollow. She's 12 weeks pregnant. Martha set down her coffee cup with enough force to crack china. That little. Don't. I pressed my fingers to my temples. I can't even process this yet. Have you told the boys? God, no. I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. Evan's already suspicious enough. And Lucas. He still idolizes his father. Martha reached across the table, covering my hand with hers. You need to confront Ben. And say what? Congratulations on your new family? Say whatever you need to say to get your share of the assets before he tries hiding them. She squeezed my hand. I've seen this before, Cora. Men like Ben, they. My phone buzzed. A text from Lucas, Mom, come home. Something's wrong with Evan. I have to go. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. The boys. I'm coming with you. We found them in the driveway. Evan was pacing, his hands covered in red paint. Lucas stood by his car, pale and shaking. What happened? I demanded. Show her, Lucas said quietly. Evan pointed to Ben's precious Mercedes, now adorned with foot-high letters across the hood, cheater. Jesus, Evan. Martha whispered. I saw them, he spat. Dad and that intern. At Riverside Park. They didn't see me, but I saw everything. His voice cracked. He had his hands all over her. She can't be much older than me. The pregnancy revelation burned in my throat. I swallowed it back. Go inside, both of you. Mom. Now. They went, leaving Martha and me staring at the ruined car. The paint was still wet, dripping down like blood. He'll be home soon, I said. Good. Martha's voice was steel. Let him see it. I should clean it off. Why? To protect him? From what? The consequences of his own actions. Before I could answer, Ben's company SUV turned into the driveway. He slammed on the brakes, staring through the windshield at his defaced Mercedes. What the hell? He was out of the car before it fully stopped. What happened to my car? Evan saw you today, I said quietly. At Riverside Park. The color drained from his face. Cora, I can explain. Can you explain this too? I held up my phone, showing him the doctor's email. 12 weeks, Ben. Were you ever going to tell me? He stepped back, glancing between Martha and me. That was meant to be private. Private? Martha advanced on him. Like screwing your intern in public parks is private? Stay out of this, Martha. Or what? You'll ruin her life too? The front door opened. Evan stood there, Lucas behind him, both watching with identical expressions of disgust. Boys, Ben started. Don't. Evan's voice shook. Don't pretend you care about us now. Of course I care. You're my sons. And what about the new one? The words escaped before I could stop them. Will you care about that one too? Or will you abandon it like you're abandoning us? Lucas made a small, wounded sound. What? Your father's girlfriend is pregnant, I said, watching Ben flinch. Apparently we're all going to be one big happy family. That's not. Ben reached for me. Cora, please. We can work this out. I stepped back. No, we can't. Because this isn't just about me anymore. This is about our sons watching their father throw away 23 years of marriage for someone barely older than they are. This is about you choosing your ego over your family. Mom, Lucas whispered. What are we going to do? I looked at my youngest son, seeing the child he used to be overlaid with the man he was becoming. Then at Evan, straight-backed and fierce in his righteousness. Finally at Ben, who couldn't even meet my eyes anymore. We're going to do what we should have done weeks ago, I said. We're going to stop pretending. I turned to Martha. Call your lawyer friend. The one who handled your divorce. Cora, don't, Ben started. The time for negotiations is over, I cut him off. You made your choice at Riverside Park. Now I'm making mine. Dr. Phillips's office smelled like artificial lavender and judgment. I sat rigid in the leather chair, staring at the divorce papers spread across her desk while she scribbled notes about my adjustment process. Have you slept at all this week, Cora? I traced the edge of Ben's financial disclosure form. 3 separate bank accounts I'd never known about. Sleep isn't really a priority right now. Your sister mentioned the incident with your son and the car. She set down her pen. How are you handling the boys' reactions? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, we need to talk. About Ben. And the money. Hannah. My fingers trembled as I showed Dr. Phillips the message. How's that for handling things? What are you thinking of doing? I slipped the phone back into my pocket. Meeting her. Is that wise? Wise stopped being relevant the moment my husband knocked up someone younger than his vintage wine collection. I stood up, gathering the papers. Thank you for your time, Dr. Phillips, but I need to. Sit down, Cora. Something in her tone made me pause. You're planning something, she said. I can see it in your eyes. The same look I saw in my sister's face before she destroyed her ex-husband's life and ended up in jail for it. I'm not. You're a teacher. A mother. Think about what you're risking. My laugh came out harsh. I already lost everything that mattered. Have you? Your sons still need you. Your career. Another buzz from my phone. Hannah again, the Henderson project isn't what you think. He's been lying to everyone. I have to go. I reached for my bag. Cora, wait. Dr. Phillips handed me her card. Before you do anything permanent, call me. Day or night. I nodded, already heading for the door. In the parking lot, I dialed Martha's number. You're not seriously meeting her, Martha said when I told her. At the coffee shop on 5th. Public place, security cameras. It's a trap. She's trying to. She's carrying my husband's child while apparently knowing something that could ruin him. I started my car. I need to know what she knows. Then I'm coming with you. No. I pulled onto the street. I need you to do something else. Go to the house. The boys are with Ben for their weekly dinner. I need you to check his home office. What am I looking for? The Henderson project files. The real ones, not the fake set he keeps on his desk. Check the safe behind the Monet print. How do you know? 23 years of marriage teaches you things. I paused at a red light. The combination is Lucas's birthday. Ben always did favor the quiet one. Cora. Martha's voice softened. Be careful. Women like Hannah are young, beautiful, pregnant, are desperate. And desperate people are dangerous. The coffee shop came into view. Through the window, I could see Hannah already seated, her hand resting protectively over her stomach. She looked up, meeting my eyes through the glass. I have to go. Wait, Martha said quickly. There's something else you should know. I did some digging. Hannah's been through this before. My hand froze on the car door. What? 2 years ago. Different company, different married executive. She claimed pregnancy then too, but after she drained his accounts, she disappeared. The pieces clicked into place. And the pregnancy? Never existed. Cora, she's running a con, and Ben is the mark. I watched Hannah check her phone, her free hand still curved around her non-existent baby bump. Keep looking through his office. I need to have a little chat with my husband's pregnant girlfriend. I ended the call and stepped out of the car, my teacher's smile firmly in place. Hannah waved, all innocent eyes, and practiced vulnerability. Two could play at that game. Time to find out who is better at manipulation, the seasoned wife or the professional con artist. The Henderson Project files lay scattered across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. Martha stood beside me, her face pale as we pieced together what Ben had been hiding. He's been embezzling, I whispered, running my finger down a column of numbers that didn't add up. Using the project as cover. And Hannah knows. Martha picked up another document. That's why she chose him. My phone buzzed with a text from Evan, Dad's on his way over. He knows you took the files. I started gathering the papers. How much time? 10 minutes, maybe less. Martha grabbed her keys. I'll take copies to my lawyer friend. No. I pulled out my phone, snapping photos of each page. We need leverage, not legal action. Not yet. The front door slammed open. Ben stormed in, his face twisted with rage. Where are they? I met his eyes across the kitchen. Where's Hannah? Shouldn't she be here for this conversation? Don't play games, Cora. Those files are company property. Funny. I held up a bank statement. I don't remember offshore accounts being part of real estate development. He lunged for the papers. Martha stepped between us, but I waved her off. It's fine, I said, my voice steady. Let him take them. I already have what I need. Ben froze. What does that mean? It means I had coffee with Hannah yesterday. I watched his face carefully. She's quite the actress, isn't she? The pregnancy, the devoted girlfriend act. Tell me, did you know about the executive in Seattle? The one she bled dry last year? Color drained from his face. You're lying. Am I? Check your accounts, Ben. The ones you thought I didn't know about. See how much is left. He grabbed his phone, fingers trembling as he pulled up his banking app. The sound he made was almost inhuman. She's gone, isn't she? I asked softly. With everything. You knew. He advanced on me. You knew and you let her. Dad, stop. Evan appeared in the doorway, Lucas behind him. Both looked horrified. Your mother destroyed everything, Ben snarled. She. I destroyed nothing, I cut in. I just waited. Watched. Like I've been doing for months, while you threw away our family for someone who saw you as nothing but a mark. The boys' college funds, he whispered. Our savings. Are safe. I pulled out another set of papers. I moved them weeks ago. Right after I found Hannah's text messages. Lucas stepped forward. Mom, what's happening? Your father's girlfriend wasn't pregnant, Martha explained gently. She was a con artist who just emptied every account she had access to, I finished. Including the Henderson Project funds. How will you explain that to the board, Ben? He sank into a chair, head in his hands. I'll be arrested. Probably. I gathered the remaining files. Unless. His head snapped up. Unless what? Unless you sign these. I pulled out divorce papers. Full custody. The house. Half your legitimate assets. In return, these files disappear. That's blackmail, he whispered. That's justice. Evan moved to stand beside me. Sign them, Dad. Ben looked at our sons, Evan's fierce protectiveness, Lucas's quiet disappointment. Then at me, seeing perhaps for the first time the woman who'd been watching, waiting, planning while he destroyed everything we'd built. You've changed, he said. No. I slid the papers toward him. I just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. Your turn to make a choice. Martha handed him a pen. The only sound in the kitchen was the scratch of ink as Ben Mitchell signed away his family to save himself. I felt nothing watching him leave. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just a hollow certainty that this wasn't over. Hannah might have taken his money, but I'd taken something far more valuable, his power to hurt us again. Mom? Lucas touched my arm. Are you okay? I looked at my sons, then at Martha, seeing the strength we'd found together. No, I said honestly. But I will be. We all will be. The police lights painted my front yard in alternating red and blue. I stood in the doorway, watching two officers lead Ben to their cruiser while neighbors peered from behind curtains. Not exactly how I'd planned this evening to go. He tried to kill me, Hannah's voice crackled through the officer's radio. I have proof. Recordings, messages, everything. Martha gripped my arm. She planned this. Of course she did. I watched Ben's head disappear into the police car. She needed a clean escape. The detective who'd been questioning me closed his notebook. Mrs. Mitchell, given your husband's recent behavior and the evidence Ms. Walker provided, we'll need you to come down to the station. For what? Evan stepped forward, protective. Standard procedure. The detective's eyes were cold. Especially given the financial documents we found in your mother's possession. My stomach dropped. The Henderson files. I'd forgotten to move them after Ben signed the divorce papers. I'll call our lawyer, Martha whispered. No time. I grabbed my coat. Lucas, stay with your aunt. Evan. I'm coming with you. The drive to the station was silent. In the harsh fluorescent lights of the interview room, Detective Sanders laid out photos of the files, bank statements, and a series of text messages I'd never seen before. Hannah Walker claims you orchestrated this entire situation, he said. That you manipulated her into helping expose your husband's crimes, then threatened to frame her if she didn't leave town. I almost laughed. That's ridiculous. Is it? He pushed forward a printed email. This message suggests you knew about the embezzlement months ago, but waited to report it. Why? I was protecting my family. Or building a case for divorce while allowing criminal activity to continue. He leaned forward. That's conspiracy, Mrs. Mitchell. The room suddenly felt too small. Through the window, I could see Evan pacing in the hallway, looking younger than his 19 years. Hannah Walker has provided detailed records of your conversations, Sanders continued. Including your meeting at the coffee shop where you allegedly threatened her. She's lying. Maybe. But combined with these files, your recent financial transactions, and your son's vandalism of your husband's car. He spread his hands. It doesn't look good. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sorry, Cora. Had to protect myself. Nothing personal. H. Another buzz. Martha, Ben's being released. Hannah dropped the assault charges. She's gone. Of course. She'd gotten what she wanted, the money, the clean escape, and me left holding the evidence of Ben's crimes. Perfect setup. Mrs. Mitchell? Sanders was waiting. I want my lawyer. That's your right. He gathered the files. But consider this, your husband's claiming you orchestrated everything. The theft, the false pregnancy story, all of it. With Hannah gone, it's your word against his. Through the window, I watched Ben walk past, escorted by his lawyer. He didn't look at me, but I saw the slight smile on his face. He'd found his way out, by making me the villain of the story. Mom? Evan's voice cracked as they led me to a holding cell. What do we do? I thought of the garden I'd planted when we first moved into our house. How sometimes you had to burn everything down to make way for new growth. Call Dr. Phillips, I said. Her card is in my wallet. Tell her I'm ready to talk about what really happened. But that means everything comes out. The affair, the embezzlement, Hannah's past cons. All of it. Dad will go to prison. So might I. I touched his face through the bars. But sometimes the truth is worth the price. The cell door clanged shut. Through the small window, I could see the night sky, dark and endless. Somewhere out there, Hannah was probably boarding a plane with my husband's money, thinking she'd won. She didn't understand. Some victories aren't about money or escape. Sometimes they're about burning everything down and standing in the ashes, finally free to rebuild. I sat on the narrow bed, closed my eyes, and began planning my next move. The game wasn't over. It was just changing rules. Dr. Phillips's testimony echoed through the courtroom like a death knell. Mrs. Mitchell came to me concerned about her husband's financial improprieties months before the arrest. She was gathering evidence to protect her family, not conspire with Miss Walker. I watched Ben's face from across the room. His perfect mask finally cracking as his lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. And these sessions, the prosecutor continued, did Mrs. Mitchell ever mention planning to frame her husband? No. She was focused on documenting the truth, nothing more. The truth. Such a simple word for something that had destroyed everything I'd known. The courthouse doors burst open. Martha rushed in, clutching her phone. They found her. The judge's gavel cracked against wood. Order! Mrs. Mitchell's sister, this is highly irregular. Your Honor, my lawyer interrupted, we've just received crucial evidence. Hannah Walker has been located in Singapore. Ben stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. That's impossible. Not impossible, I said quietly. Inevitable. Did you really think she'd stop at just one mark? The prosecutor approached the bench with Martha's phone. A video played on the screen, Hannah, in a hotel room, counting stacks of cash while speaking to someone off camera. The Henderson Project was perfect, her voice rang clear. Mitchell was so desperate to hide the embezzlement, he never questioned anything. His wife, though. Hannah laughed. She was smarter than expected. Almost ruined everything. Ben's face went ash white. Turn it off. Can't handle the truth? Evan called from the gallery. About how she played you. Order! The judge's gavel cracked again. Mr. Mitchell, sit down. The video continued. Hannah detailed every transaction, every manipulation. How she'd used Ben's guilt over the affair to access company accounts. How she'd planned to frame me all along. And the pregnancy, the off-camera voice asked. Hannah's laugh turned cruel. Please. Men like Ben Mitchell are all the same. Wave a baby in front of them and they'll sign anything. The courtroom erupted. Through the chaos, I watched my husband, the man I'd spent 23 years loving, crumble into himself as the full weight of his choices crashed down. Your Honor, Ben's lawyer started. Save it, Ben cut him off. He stood, shoulders slumped. I want to change my plea. Ben, don't. It's over. He turned to face me. You knew, didn't you? That she'd try this again somewhere else. That someone would eventually catch her. I knew she'd get greedy. I met his eyes. Just like I knew you'd choose her over us until it was too late. The court will recess, the judge announced. 1 hour. In the hallway, Evan and Lucas flanked me like guards. Martha showed me the rest of the evidence, Hannah's pattern across 3 countries, 5 executives, millions in stolen funds. Singapore authorities are moving in now, she said. She'll never see it coming. Just like Dad, Lucas muttered. Ben approached us, escorted by his lawyer. Cora, please. We can still. Still what? Evan stepped forward. Pretend you didn't choose her over us? Over Mom? I was wrong. Ben's voice cracked. About everything. Yes, I said simply. You were. The bailiff called us back in. Before entering, I turned to Ben one last time. You know what the difference is between Hannah and me? She wanted revenge. I just wanted the truth. And now? Now I want peace. I straightened my spine. The boys and I are moving to the coast. Starting fresh. You should plead guilty, Ben. It's the only way they'll ever forgive you. Inside the courtroom, I took my seat as Ben approached the bench. The truth had cost us everything we'd built together. But watching him finally face his choices, I realized something. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself again. The judge called for order, and Ben spoke the words that would end our shared life forever. I closed my eyes, feeling not triumph, but relief. The game was over. We had all lost something, but at least now we could stop pretending. The coastal wind carried the scent of salt and new beginnings as I planted the last rosebush in our garden. Behind me, the sound of Evan's guitar drifted from the deck of our new home, mixing with Lucas's quiet humming. My phone buzzed. Martha's text was brief, Hannah caught. Singapore authorities found her starting the same scam with a tech CEO. I didn't respond. Instead, I pressed my hands deeper into the soil, feeling its cool dampness against my skin. Some endings didn't need acknowledgement. Mom? Lucas appeared beside me, holding a letter. This came for you. Dad's handwriting. The envelope was prison-stamped, heavy with words I wasn't sure I wanted to read. What do you think? Should we open it together? He sat cross-legged in the grass, reminding me of when he was small enough to help me plant marigolds. Only if you want to. Evan joined us, setting his guitar aside. Whatever's in there won't change anything. No, I agreed, breaking the seal. But maybe it needs to be heard anyway. Ben's letter was short, his usually precise handwriting shaky. Cora. The prosecutor showed me Hannah's complete record today. 7 men before me. All of us thinking we were special, different. But you were the only one who saw through her. The only one strong enough to stand your ground. I keep thinking about that garden you always wanted by the coast. The one I said was impractical because of the salt air. Guess you proved me wrong about that too. The boys won't answer my calls. I don't blame them. Just tell them I finally understand what I threw away. Ben. Lucas leaned against my shoulder. Are you okay? Actually, yes. I folded the letter, tucking it under a stone in the garden. Some things need to stay buried so others can grow. Like your impossible coastal garden? Evan smiled slightly. Exactly. I stood, brushing dirt from my knees. Speaking of which, help me with these last few plants. We worked in comfortable silence, 3 pairs of hands in the earth, building something new from the ashes of what we'd lost. The roses would struggle at first against the salt air, but they'd adapt. Grow stronger. Just like we had. Martha's car pulled into the driveway. She emerged carrying grocery bags and a familiar-looking file. The last of the Henderson Project documents, she announced. All evidence processed and filed away. Case closed. Burn it, I said, surprising myself. We don't need it anymore. Evan looked up sharply. But what if? What if nothing? I took the file, walked to our fire pit, and struck a match. Some victories aren't about keeping proof. They're about choosing to let go. We watched the papers curl and blacken, years of lies and manipulation turning to ash in the coastal breeze. Lucas sketched the scene in his notebook, while Evan strummed a quiet melody that sounded like healing. The roses will bloom by spring, Martha observed, settling into a deck chair. Maybe. I smiled, thinking of Ben's letter under its garden stone. But that's not why I planted them. No? I planted them because everyone said they wouldn't survive here. That it was impossible. I looked at my sons, these beautiful, resilient young men who'd weathered the storm with me. Sometimes proving something's possible is more important than making it easy. The sun began to set over the water, painting the sky in colors no revenge could match. Tomorrow, I'd return to my classroom, teaching literature to students who'd never know how their teacher had rewritten her own story. My sons would continue healing, creating art and music from their pain. And somewhere in a prison cell, Ben would read about Hannah's arrest and finally understand that some betrayals come with built-in justice. But tonight, we sat in our impossible garden, watching the roses sway in the salt air. Proving that broken things could be beautiful if you planted them in the right soil. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something better, a future that belonged entirely to me.
The credit card statement trembled in my hands, each line item a dagger to my chest. 4 nights at the Grand Riviera Resort. 2 spa packages. Champagne service. All charged to an account I never knew existed. I'm Vanessa, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I knew every detail of my husband's financial life. 15 years of marriage does that to you, or at least it should. But here I sat, in our tastefully decorated home office, staring at proof that Marcus had been living a different life entirely. Darling, are you ready? Mother and father are expecting us in 20 minutes. Marcus's voice floated up from downstairs, perfectly casual, perfectly normal. I shoved the statement into my desk drawer, my heart hammering against my ribs. Just finishing up some work emails, I called back, amazed at how steady my voice sounded. The drive to his parents' house was excruciating. Marcus hummed along to the radio, one hand resting on my thigh like he hadn't just spent thousands at a luxury resort without my knowledge. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but Linda's weekly family dinner wasn't the place for that conversation. There's my boy. Linda's shrill voice greeted us at the door. She wrapped Marcus in a tight embrace before turning to me with considerably less enthusiasm. Vanessa, dear. That's an interesting choice of outfit. I glanced down at my perfectly appropriate black dress. Thank you, Linda. You're looking well. George barely looked up from his newspaper as we entered the dining room. Marcus, son, how's the firm treating you? Couldn't be better, Dad. Just landed the Peterson account last week. Linda beamed, arranging herself at the head of the table like a queen holding court. I always knew you'd do wonderful things, darling. You get that from our side of the family. The familiar sting of her words barely registered tonight. I was too preoccupied with the resort charges, with the growing certainty that something was terribly wrong in my marriage. Speaking of wonderful things, Linda continued, fixing me with her razor-sharp gaze, any news you'd like to share with us, Vanessa? I knew exactly what she was asking. The same thing she asked every Sunday for the past decade. No, Linda. No grandchildren yet. Well, it's not too late to see a specialist. Though at your age. She let the sentence dangle, sharp and poisonous. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table, but it felt hollow. Everything felt hollow now. I wondered if he'd taken someone else to that resort, if that someone else could give Linda the grandchildren she so desperately wanted. More wine, dear. George offered, finally looking up from his paper. I nodded, grateful for the distraction. As I reached for the glass, my phone buzzed with an email notification. A receipt for a jewelry purchase, forwarded from Marcus's account to mine by mistake. A diamond pendant from Tiffany's, purchased the same weekend as the resort stay. I'd never received that pendant. The wine glass slipped from my fingers, shattering against Linda's pristine white tablecloth. Red liquid spread like blood across the fabric as Linda gasped in horror. I'm so sorry, I said, but I wasn't looking at the spill. I was looking at Marcus, at the flash of panic in his eyes when he noticed my phone in my hand. In that moment, I knew. I knew everything. Really, Vanessa, Linda sighed, dabbing at the spreading stain. This is why we can't have nice things. I smiled tightly, already planning my next move. You're right, Linda. Some things just aren't meant to last. The next morning, Marcus's side of the bed was cold. 3 a.m. Conference call with Tokyo, he'd said. The lie sat between us like a wall when he finally came home, briefcase in hand, cologne too fresh for someone who'd been up all night working. We need to talk, I said, watching him loosen his tie. Can it wait? I'm exhausted. He didn't meet my eyes, focusing instead on hanging up his jacket with precise movements. The Grand Riviera Resort. I kept my voice steady, measured. 4 nights, 2 spa packages, champagne service. His shoulders tensed for a fraction of a second before he turned, face perfectly composed. It was a business retreat. I thought I mentioned it. And the Tiffany pendant. A gift. For your birthday. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You weren't supposed to find out about that one. My birthday's in August, Marcus. You bought it in April. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. His phone buzzed, and he reached for it automatically. Don't. My voice cracked. Don't you dare check that phone right now. He set it face down on the dresser. You're being paranoid, Vanessa. This obsession with my spending isn't healthy. Neither is lying to your wife. His expression hardened. I work 60 hours a week to maintain this lifestyle. I don't appreciate being interrogated in my own home. Your mother called earlier, I said, watching his face carefully. She mentioned meeting a lovely young woman at her charity luncheon. Someone she thinks would be perfect for your firm's marketing department. Mother needs to mind her own business. He loosened his tie further, a nervous tell I'd noticed years ago. Funny, she said the same thing about me last Sunday. Right after commenting on my biological clock. Again. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. You know how she gets. She's traditional, that's all. Traditional enough to play matchmaker while her son is still married. That's not fair. You're twisting things. I pulled out my laptop. Am I? Because I have some interesting emails here. Your mother seems very invested in your lunch meetings with this Rachel person. The color drained from his face. You hacked my email. You left yourself logged in. Sloppy, Marcus. Unlike the careful way you've been deleting your text messages every night. He crossed the room in 2 strides, slamming the laptop shut. Enough. This stops now. You're acting crazy. Crazy? I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. Crazy is gaslighting your wife while your mother plays pimp. His hand gripped my arm, tight enough to hurt. Don't you dare talk about my mother that way. Or what, Marcus? You'll run to mommy. Tell her how your bitter, barren wife is making accusations. He released me like I'd burned him. I can't talk to you when you're like this. Like what? Honest? He grabbed his keys and jacket. I'm staying at the office tonight. Call me when you're ready to be rational. I watched him leave, listening to his car start up and pull away. My phone buzzed, a text from Linda. Darling, I hope you're not bothering Marcus with silly accusations. He works so hard, and stress isn't good for a man. Why don't you come over tomorrow? We can discuss your concerns. I stared at the message, imagining Linda's smug face as she typed it. She probably thought she was being clever, managing her son's marriage crisis. But she'd made a crucial mistake. I opened my laptop again, scrolling through Marcus's emails. There it was, a dinner reservation for tomorrow night. Grand Riviera Restaurant, table for 2, under the name R. Mitchell. Time to meet Rachel. I typed a quick reply to Linda, thank you for the invitation. You're right, we have so much to discuss. Let them think they had me cornered. Let them believe I was the hysterical wife, the bitter disappointment, the problem that needed solving. They had no idea what was coming. I picked up my phone and booked my own table at the Grand Riviera. Tomorrow night, their carefully constructed lies would begin to unravel, one thread at a time. Linda's pristine living room felt like a stage set, everything arranged just so. I sat across from her, watching steam rise from the china teacup she'd placed before me, untouched. Marcus tells me you've been emotional lately, she said, stirring honey into her own cup with practiced precision. Does he tell you everything, Linda? Her hand paused mid-stir. A son confides in his mother. It's natural. Natural. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the email I'd found last night. Like arranging lunch meetings between your married son and eligible young women. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. But her fingers tightened around the spoon. Rachel Mitchell. 28, marketing degree from Stanford, comes from old money. Your kind of people, right? Color rose in Linda's cheeks. She's a business associate. Nothing more. Really? Because these emails paint quite a different picture. I started reading aloud. Dear Rachel, Marcus mentioned how lovely your dinner was. I'm so pleased you two connected. He needs someone who understands his potential. Linda set her cup down with a sharp clink. You had no right to access private correspondence. Like you had no right to orchestrate my husband's affair. Affairs happen for a reason, Vanessa. Her voice turned silk smooth, poisonous. When a wife can't fulfill her basic duties. Basic duties? I laughed. You mean providing grandchildren? Tell me, did you interview Rachel about her fertility before setting her up with your son? That's enough. Linda stood, hands trembling. I won't sit here and be accused. Sit down. My voice cut through her protest like a blade. We're not finished. Something in my tone made her sink back into her chair. I pulled up another email. Here's a good one. You forwarding Rachel's resume to Marcus's firm. Oh, and look, dinner reservations at the Grand Riviera, made through your personal assistant. The same weekend Marcus was supposedly at a business retreat. You're twisting things to fit your paranoid narrative. Am I? I opened the photo gallery on my phone. These were taken last night. Marcus and Rachel, looking very professional. I especially liked the one where he's kissing her in the parking lot. Linda's face went ash white. You followed them. I learned from the best. Isn't that how you caught your first husband cheating? You told that story at Christmas 3 years ago, remember? After your third martini. She reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. What do you want? Want? I smiled. I want you to experience what it feels like when your carefully constructed world falls apart. Starting with your charity foundation's annual gala next week. You wouldn't dare. The foundation's reputation means everything to you. Just like your reputation in the country club, your position on the hospital board, your perfect family image. Her hands shook as she reached for her tea. Marcus won't let you destroy everything we've built. Marcus won't have a choice. Unless what? I leaned forward. Unless you confess everything to George. Tonight. Tell him how you orchestrated your son's affair, how you've been manipulating everyone around you. Let your husband see who you really are. He'll never believe you over me. He might believe the evidence. Every email, every reservation, every manipulative little message you've sent. I have copies of everything. Linda's facade cracked. Please. I only wanted what was best for Marcus. No, you wanted control. And now you're losing it. I stood, smoothing my skirt. You have until midnight to tell George. After that, everything goes public. Every sordid detail. You'll destroy Marcus too, she whispered. He destroyed himself when he chose to follow Mommy's script instead of being honest with his wife. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Linda. That charity luncheon next week. I'd recommend wearing waterproof mascara. Tears tend to flow when reputations crumble. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click, leaving Linda alone with her cold tea and colder reality. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus asking where I was. I didn't reply. Let him worry. Let him wonder. The game was changing, and for once, I held all the cards. The Grand Riviera's bar felt like neutral territory, though my hands shook as I ordered a martini. Rachel Mitchell was even younger in person, her designer dress and perfectly styled hair screaming, trying too hard. She sat 2 tables away, checking her phone every few minutes, waiting for Marcus. I watched her through the mirror behind the bar, noting how she touched her hair nervously, straightened her silverware, practiced her smile. God, I'd been that young once. That naive. My phone buzzed, a text from Linda. George wants to know if you'll be at dinner Sunday. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I deleted it without responding. The countdown to midnight was ticking, and Linda's world was about to implode. But first, this. Rachel checked her watch again. Marcus was 20 minutes late, unusual for him. Unless. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, working late. Don't wait up. I smiled into my martini. Of course. Linda had warned him about my visit, and he'd called Rachel to cancel. But she hadn't gotten the message, which meant. Excuse me, I said, approaching her table. Are you Rachel? She looked up, startled. Yes. I'm so sorry, but Marcus asked me to let you know he can't make it tonight. Emergency at the office. I sat down uninvited. I'm Vanessa. His wife. The color drained from her face. His. But he said. He told me he was separated. Did Linda tell you that too? When she arranged your first, accidental, meeting at her charity luncheon. Rachel's hands trembled as she reached for her water. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone, sliding it across the table. The resort weekend in April. The Tiffany pendant. All those lunch meetings Linda arranged. Did you really think you were the first? He said Linda was just being kind, helping him transition. Her voice cracked. Oh God. Linda's never kind without an agenda. She did the same thing with Marcus's first wife. Rachel's head snapped up. First wife. He never mentioned Catherine. Let me guess, he told you I was his only marriage, that I was cold, career-focused, couldn't give him children. Tears welled in her eyes. He said you were separated, focusing on your career in Europe. I laughed, the sound hollow. I haven't left the country in 3 years. Would you like to see this morning's breakfast dishes in our sink? I think I'm going to be sick. She stood abruptly, but I caught her wrist. Wait. There's something you need to see first. I pulled up the emails between Linda and Marcus, discussing Rachel like she was a prized breeding mare. Her face went from pale to green as she read. Perfect childbearing hips, she quoted, voice shaking. Good family background. They were planning. Linda wants grandchildren. You're young, fertile, and moldable. The perfect replacement. I need to go. She grabbed her purse, then paused. Why are you showing me this? Because you deserve to know what you're dealing with. And because I need your help. My help. Linda's charity gala is next week. Every social connection she's ever cultivated will be there. Including the board members of your company. Understanding dawned in her eyes. You want me to tell the truth about everything. Unless you prefer to be the other woman in their carefully scripted drama. She sat back down, hands steady now. Tell me what you need me to do. My phone buzzed again. Linda, Marcus says you're not home. Whatever you're planning, remember who has more to lose. I showed Rachel the message. That's where she's wrong. They're the ones with everything to lose. We're just the collateral damage they never considered. When do we start? I smiled, feeling the pieces fall into place. We already have. Linda's facing her own crisis tonight. By tomorrow, Marcus will be scrambling to contain the damage. And next week, we show them what happens when they underestimate the women they thought they could control. Rachel raised her water glass. To karma. I clinked my martini against it. To karma. And to the truth. George's study smelled of leather and cigar smoke, a sanctuary I'd never been invited into before. He sat behind his mahogany desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, examining the stack of emails I'd printed out. These are serious allegations, Vanessa. His voice remained steady, betraying nothing. They're not allegations, George. They're facts. He removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Linda claims you're having some sort of breakdown. Of course she does. Did she tell you about her midnight confession? She was distraught. Claimed you were blackmailing her. I pulled out my phone, playing the recording I'd made outside their bedroom window last night. Linda's voice, thick with tears, confessing everything to George. His muffled responses. The sound of breaking glass. You recorded that without consent. Like how your wife recorded Catherine's private conversations before Marcus's first divorce. His head snapped up. How do you know about Catherine? I do my research, George. Did you know Linda was behind that divorce too? Another daughter-in-law who couldn't provide grandchildren fast enough. The door opened, and Marcus burst in, Linda close behind. Father, don't listen to. He froze when he saw me. Hello, darling, I said. How was your late meeting last night? Linda's hand gripped Marcus's arm. George, she's trying to destroy our family. No, Linda. You did that yourself. I turned to Marcus. Rachel says hello, by the way. She's particularly interested in those emails about her childbearing potential. Marcus went pale. You talked to Rachel. We had quite the conversation. About your separation in Europe, your lonely nights, your manipulative wife. I smiled. She's very eager to share her side of the story at the charity gala. You wouldn't dare, Linda hissed. Watch me. I stood, smoothing my skirt. Unless what? Marcus stepped forward. Unless you sign these. I pulled out divorce papers, already marked with tabs. Full disclosure of assets, no contest, and a public statement about the affair. That would ruin his career, Linda protested. Better his career than your entire social empire. I turned to George. Did you know your wife's charity foundation has been misappropriating funds? The paper trail is fascinating. George's face hardened. Linda. She's lying. But Linda's voice shook. Am I? Check the foundation's accounts. Specifically the transfers to consulting fees paid to shell companies owned by your tennis instructor. The color drained from Linda's face. You have until the gala, I said, walking toward the door. Sign the papers, admit the affair, and the foundation stays clean. Otherwise. I shrugged. I hear the IRS is very interested in charitable fraud. Vanessa, wait. Marcus reached for me, but I stepped back. Don't touch me. Ever again. I met his eyes. You know what's funny? I actually believed you loved me once. But you never did you? I was just the first replacement your mother chose. That's not true. Save it for Rachel. Or whoever comes after her. I turned to Linda. The gala's in 3 days. Tick-tock. George's voice stopped me at the door. Why now, Vanessa? Why not just walk away? I looked back at them, this family that had suffocated me for 15 years. Because some people need to learn that actions have consequences. Even the ones who think they're above them. Linda made a small, broken sound. Marcus stared at the floor. George just watched me, something like respect flickering in his eyes. 3 days, I reminded them. Oh, and Linda. I'd start calling your society friends. I hear damage control works better in advance. I closed the door behind me, letting their panicked voices fade as I walked away. My phone buzzed, Rachel confirming our lunch meeting tomorrow to finalize the gala plans. Everything was falling into place. But as I drove home, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Was I becoming just like Linda, manipulating people's lives for my own ends? Or was this justice, pure and simple? The answer, I realized, probably lay somewhere in between. But it was too late to turn back now. The avalanche had started, and we were all going to get buried in the aftermath. The charity gala glittered with false smiles and designer gowns. I adjusted my black dress, the one Marcus always said made me look severe, and watched Linda work the room, her laugh just a touch too bright. Her gestures slightly too sharp. Rachel stood near the bar, looking younger than ever in pale pink. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away, and my stomach twisted. Something wasn't right. Quite the turnout, Marcus said behind me. I hadn't heard him approach. Shouldn't you be with your date? I nodded toward Rachel. She's not my date. Not anymore. His voice was steady. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? The setup at the restaurant, the recorded confession, all of it. Ice spread through my veins. What did you do? Nothing. Just showed Rachel some interesting emails between you and Catherine. Catherine? The name hit like a slap. How did you? You're not the only one who can hack accounts, Vanessa. Catherine was quite helpful once I explained how you'd been using her story to manipulate Rachel. Across the room, Linda caught my eye and smiled. Not her usual social smile, but something predatory. The Foundation's books are clean now, Marcus continued. Mother made sure of that. And Rachel's decided not to speak tonight after all. Something about not wanting to be part of your vendetta. You're lying. But Rachel wouldn't meet my eyes anymore. Am I? Check your phone. Those emails you saved. The recordings. Funny how technology can fail at the worst moments. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. Files corrupted. Emails deleted. Everything gone. Did you really think we'd let you destroy this family? Linda appeared beside us, champagne in hand. Oh, darling. You never did understand how things work in our world. Ladies and gentlemen, George's voice boomed from the podium. If I could have your attention. This was wrong. This was all wrong. The speech was supposed to be Linda's, where Rachel would interrupt with the truth about the affair. It's with great sadness, George continued, that I must address certain rumors. My daughter-in-law, Vanessa, has been struggling with some personal issues. The room blurred. Personal issues. The same words they'd used about Catherine. About Marcus's first wife, who disappeared into a private treatment facility after her own accusations. We hope you'll respect our privacy during this difficult time, George finished. And support Marcus as he helps his wife through this challenging period. Applause filled the room. Sympathetic looks turned my way. Linda squeezed my arm, nails digging in. The car's waiting outside, she whispered. Unless you'd prefer we discuss your mental health more publicly. You can't do this. We already have. Marcus's hand pressed against my lower back, steering me toward the exit. The facility's very discreet. Mother used her hospital board connections to arrange everything. I'll tell everyone the truth. Who would believe you? Linda's voice was silk smooth. The bitter wife, imagining affairs, hacking emails, making recordings. Threatening a respected charity foundation. Marcus tried so hard to help you, but sometimes professional care is the only answer. Rachel watched us pass, guilt and relief warring on her face. She'd chosen their side, their story. Just like Catherine probably had. Outside, a black car idled. The driver held the door open, expression carefully blank. Don't make a scene, Marcus murmured. Think of your career. Your reputation. For a moment, I saw it all clearly, the weeks of isolation ahead. The carefully documented episodes, the sympathetic doctors who'd listened to Linda's version of events. Just like they had with Catherine. I looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and saw something I'd missed before, fear. Not of me, but of them. Of stepping out of the role they'd created for him. You're right, I said softly. No scene. I took one step toward the car, then another. Linda's grip loosened. Marcus relaxed slightly. That's when I started screaming. My scream shattered the polite facade of the gala like a brick through glass. Guests froze, champagne flutes suspended mid-toast. Through the massive windows, I could see phones coming out, recording. Perfect. Someone call security, Linda hissed, but I was already walking back inside, Marcus and the waiting car forgotten. Ladies and gentlemen, I called out, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. I'd like to make a toast of my own. Vanessa, don't, Marcus grabbed my arm, but I shook him off. To family, I said, snatching a champagne flute from a nearby tray. Specifically, to the Hamilton family tradition of making inconvenient wives disappear. Linda surged forward, but George held her back. Smart man. You're unwell, Marcus said loudly, for the benefit of the watching crowd. Let me take you home. Home. Like you took Catherine home. I turned to the crowd. Did any of you know Catherine? Marcus's first wife. The one who had a nervous breakdown after failing to provide an heir. Murmurs rippled through the room. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. That's enough, Linda snapped, but I saw the fear in her eyes. I thought it was enough too, when I found proof of Marcus's affair. But then I found something better. I pulled out my phone. Catherine sends her regards, by the way. From Seattle, where she's been practicing law for the past 8 years. Under her maiden name. Marcus went pale. You're lying. Am I? Because she had quite a story to tell about her time in the Hamilton family's preferred treatment facility. The same one you had arranged for me tonight. Security. Linda called out, but no one moved. Oh, and Rachel. I turned to where she stood, frozen by the bar. Show them what Marcus gave you last week. Rachel's hand went to her throat, to the Tiffany pendant there. The same design Catherine had described in her email. He gives it to all his wives, I continued. Right before they become inconvenient. Don't worry, you can keep it. Consider it payment for your performance tonight. This is slander, Linda sputtered, but her carefully crafted mask was cracking. Is it slander when there's proof? I turned to George. Check your phone, George. I just forwarded you some interesting documents about the foundation's finances. The real ones, not the sanitized version Linda showed you. George pulled out his phone, his expression darkening as he read. You see, I continued, addressing the crowd, the Hamilton family has a system. Find a suitable wife, pressure her for children, and when she fails, arrange for her replacement. All while funneling foundation money through shell companies to keep everyone quiet. Security. Linda screamed again, but this time several board members raised their hands to stop the approaching guards. We'd like to see those documents, one of them said quietly. Marcus stepped forward, desperation in his eyes. Vanessa, please. We can work this out. Like you worked it out with Catherine. I smiled. Check your email, darling. She's filing an affidavit about her time in that facility. Her lawyer copied the medical board, the police, and every newspaper in the state. The room erupted in chaos. Board members huddled in corners, phones out. Linda collapsed into a chair, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. George stood absolutely still, staring at his phone with growing horror. You've destroyed everything, Marcus whispered. No, I corrected him. You did that yourself. I just turned on the lights. I walked to the podium, where George's champagne sat abandoned. One final toast, I called out. To Catherine Hamilton, wherever she is. May she sleep better knowing the truth is finally out. Rachel appeared at my side, slipping off the Tiffany pendant. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have. Keep it, I said. Sell it. Buy something that's actually yours. As I walked out, I heard Linda's wail of despair, followed by the distinct sound of George's disgusted voice. How long have you been stealing from our foundation? I stepped into the warm night air, leaving chaos in my wake. My phone buzzed, a text from Catherine, well done. Coffee sometime. I smiled, hailing a cab. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's making sure everyone else can see it too. The movers worked efficiently, boxing up 15 years of marriage while I sorted through what remained. Each item felt lighter now, stripped of the weight of pretense. My wedding china, Linda's passive-aggressive Christmas gifts, the photos of perfect family dinners, all categorized into keep, donate, or trash. My phone buzzed with another news alert about the Hamilton Foundation scandal. George had resigned from the board. Linda faced criminal charges for financial fraud. Marcus's firm had placed him on indefinite leave pending investigation. These photos. The mover held up our wedding album. Trash. A knock at the door made me turn. Rachel stood there, still wearing that Tiffany pendant. I sold the rest of the jewelry, she said, stepping inside. Donated the money to domestic violence shelters. Good choice. She fingered the pendant. I kept this one as a reminder of how easy it is to become part of someone else's game without realizing it. The movers carried out another box, leaving us alone in the half-empty room. Catherine called, Rachel said. She's starting a support group for women who've survived situations like this. Survived. The word tasted strange. Is that what we did? You tell me. You're the one who brought it all down. I looked around the stripped walls, remembering Linda's first dinner party here, how she'd rearranged my furniture without asking. Claiming she knew best. I thought revenge would feel different, I admitted. More satisfying. Doesn't it? It feels. I searched for the word. Unfinished. Rachel nodded toward the window. Outside, a familiar black car idled. Marcus? I asked. He's been sitting there for an hour. Says he needs to talk to you. I walked to the window. Marcus looked up, our eyes meeting across the distance. For a moment, I saw him clearly, not the monster I'd made him out to be, not the perfect son Linda had shaped, but something in between. A man who'd let others write his story for so long, he'd forgotten how to write his own. Are you going to talk to him? Rachel asked. No. I turned away from the window. His story isn't mine anymore. My phone buzzed again, Catherine, sending an address for coffee tomorrow. Below it, she'd written, Welcome to the after. The after. Not the end, not a new beginning, just after. Need help with these last boxes? Rachel asked. Actually, yes. I picked up a box marked kitchen. But first, let's get rid of that pendant. She touched it again, hesitating. How? I smiled, remembering the weight of my own Tiffany pendant, now sitting at the bottom of the harbor. I know a place. We walked out together, past Marcus's car, past the life I'd thought I wanted, towards something undefined but undeniably mine. He didn't follow. The movers finished loading the truck as the sun set, casting long shadows across the driveway. I handed them my new address, a downtown apartment, high enough to see the harbor. Ready? Rachel asked. I looked back at the house one last time. Through the window, I could see the empty spaces where my things had been, the marks on the walls where photos once hung. Linda would hate those marks, those imperfect reminders of what had been lost. Good. You know what the strangest part is? I said, locking the door for the last time. I actually feel sorry for them. Why? Because they'll never understand what they lost. They'll blame everyone else, tell new lies, find new victims. But they'll never know what it feels like to just be real. Rachel unclasped the pendant, letting it dangle from her fingers. To the harbor. To the harbor. We left the house behind, two women carrying a box of broken promises and a piece of jewelry that had once meant ownership. Behind us, Marcus's car started up, then drove away in the opposite direction. I didn't watch it go. I was too busy watching where I was heading.